Members of the public, I declare this special council meeting on the 22nd of April 2024 open at 4:30 p.m. Everybody please stand. I wish to acknowledge the Gadigal people as the traditional owners of the land that we're meeting on and recognise their strength, resilience and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Thank you. This meeting is being live streamed and audio recorded to facilitate community participation for minute-taking purposes, which may be released upon request to third parties. In accordance with Clause 616 of Town of Port for Hazelden Standing Orders, Local Law 2014, members of the public are not permitted to use any visual or audio electronic device or instrument to record the proceeding of the meeting unless that person has been given permission by the presiding member to do so. Members of the public are also reminded that in accordance with Clause 617-4 Standing Orders, mobile phones must be switched off and not be used during the meeting. 3.1 attendance. I note that all councillors are present and attendance will be listed under 3.1 of the minutes. 3.2 attendance by telephone communications. There is nil. 3.3 apologies. Mr. CEO, do you have received any apologies at all?
No, there are none, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. 3.4 approval is the absence. There is nil. 3.5 disclosure of interest. CEO, have you received any disclosure of interest at all?
Not received any, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. Okay, item number 4, public time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportunity of members of the public to ask questions or make statements to council. As this is a special council meeting, questions and statement must be related to the purpose of this meeting only. Clause 67-3 of the Town of Hazelden Standing Orders Local Laws requires members of the public wishing to ask questions to complete the question form and place the completed form in the tray provided. If myself, as a presiding member, determines that questions, statements are out of order due to offensive or sexual expression or defamatory, they will not be considered, recorded, nor responded to. 4.1 public question time. I will open public question time at 4:32 p.m. CEO, have you received any public questions at all?
We've not received any, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. Do any members of the public wish to come and ask questions? Yes, Roger. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Roger Higgins, 119 Edgar Street. My question is to the Mayor. What was the date and the time when the councillor was being considered tonight? What was the date and time that he became a councillor? I'll take that on notice. Thank you. Well, with respect, I don't think you should take this on notice because it's relevant to the whole meeting.
Mr. Mayor, the time was just before the first council meeting, the last council meeting. So, you know, we have the date. And I'm sure Adrian will be happy to answer what time it was and the date that he was sworn in.
I'll check your government. March 27th, 11 a.m.
Can you repeat that again? I didn't hear you.
March 27th, 11 a.m.
Okay, so that was when he was sworn in. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Why then, because before the date he was sworn in, this whole matter occurred before the date he was sworn in. So why then are we having this meeting? Because he was not a representative of the electors of Port Hedland at that time. So why are we having this meeting?
He was actually won the election on the date of the election. He was actually was a councillor. He was actually won the election. Next question, please.
Point of order.
Objection.
Mr. Mayor. The Act is clear in relation to councillors and when they can act as a councillor.
Okay, rejected. Thank you. Next question, please.
I've asked you a question, but I haven't really had an answer, because what happens in private life, now we don't bring matters to the question, to the microphone to question you, Mr Mayor, about your activities. But I think it's a very legitimate question to ask, because this whole criticism, this whole meeting is based on the fact that Adrian has supposedly acted as a councillor. He acted as a private citizen. So I'm asking again, why is this meeting going to even proceed? Because what you have just said, the allegation that you have made, occurred when he was a private citizen. We as private citizens can do whatever we like in our life, and it doesn't affect the council at all, it doesn't affect the ratepayers. So I'm questioning your motive behind it and why you have gone down this pathway when he wasn't even a councillor at the time. The fact that he stood for election didn't matter. His role did not begin until he was sworn in.
Thank you,
So
Roger.
can you explain that?
Thank you for your question, Roger. Thank you.
I haven't had an answer though.
I just gave you an answer.
It's a question that's relevant to what's going on, and I have not had from you an answer which is satisfactory.
I told you before, he was elected as a councillor, but he also won the election on the date he was a councillor. Thank you. Please sit down. Thank you. Do you have any other questions, please? Yes, Victoria, come forward, please.
Hello, I just would like to read a question from my mom.
Nina Malik,
Yes, sir, that's okay.
Short Street.
Yeah, okay. She doesn't speak English well enough, but we
Yes,
from local Ukrainian community. So the question is regarding Councillor McRae's statements, which were made after he sworn in as a councillor. In particular, his interview on the 6th of April. So before giving the interview to Ozzy Kozak on the 6th of April, was Councillor McRae aware of charges against Simeon Boyko? That he has assaulted, that Simeon Boyko, a 76-year-old man at a rally in support of Ukraine in December 2022 at Sydney's town hall. Simeon Boyko, also known as Ozzy Kozak, has been hiding in a Russian diplomatic facility in Sydney to avoid assault charges laid by the New South Wales Police. He was given Russian citizenship and received a job with the Russian government's outlet Sputnik, producing social media posts and videos. Thank you.
Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, hi, look, I am aware of the charges against Simeon Boykov in Sydney. He's been charged in absentia, as you would probably be aware. Myself and several lawyers in Sydney have seen the footage of the alleged assault, and he had no defence. The court that charged him, the guilty charge was basically because he didn't show up, because of, he wasn't there. He was in the Russian consulate at the time in Sydney, but all the lawyers that I've seen that have seen the footage of him being attacked by a flag bearer, Ukrainian flag bearer with a wooden flag, they attacked him with a wooden flag and he pushed the guy away and the guy fell over. So I'm not the judge in this case. I am aware of that situation, and that's, look, it's, from my personal perspective, it was self-defence. I'm not defending the guy, I know, but I do know that everyone that's seen that footage agrees with that outcome, that he, it was a very unfair charge, but he was charged in his absence, so he wasn't even able to attend the court hearing.
Okay, and just we have another question from another member of Port Helen community, from Yuri.
Can you please state your name and address for the record, please, as well?
Hello.
Thank you.
My name Yuri, Bottle Brush Street.
Yuri Yurchenko.
Yeah, Yuri Yurchenko.
So, in his interviews after being sworn in as a councillor, Councillor McRae made numerous comments on Ukrainian issues. According to the Department of Local Government, Sports and Cultural Industries, councillors should attempt to remain informed about current affairs at a state and national level. Since the full-scale Russian invasion, thousands of displaced Ukrainians have come to Australia seeking refuge, including me. This was widely covered in the press. Coroner McRae, have you tried to contact and consult with your local Ukrainian community before making media statements? It could be done through Tanupur Helen Community Engagement Team or Association of Ukrainians in WA.
Yep. Look, I have friends from Ukraine that I talk to often. I have friends from Russia that I talk to often, just on social media and other outlets. So, look, I've studied and followed this this horrible situation in Ukraine, and as I've said publicly many times, I don't support Russia. I don't support Ukraine. I hate the war. I hate the situation that's happening in your country right now, and I'm really sorry that you've been displaced from your homes. It's horrible. But I also understand the geopolitical situation that's manifested itself, particularly since 2014 in the Maidan. I'm well aware of, I don't want to get into a political debate here, of course, but I'm well aware of the US Under Secretary of State Victoria Nuland boasting about spending $5 billion US dollars to foment that coup, and there was obviously a lot of violence that took place, and the things that happened after, as you would know, the trade union building in Odessa, and there were some just horrible, ugly things that happened and drove tensions to horrible levels. And as you would be aware, when Gorbachev and Reagan made the agreement in the late 80s that NATO would not move a single inch to the east, I'm sure you're aware of that. That was the agreement that the Berlin Wall came down and East Germany was given back to West Germany, and there would be no militarisation creeping in and around Russia's borders. I'm sure you're aware of that promise that was made by America and NATO. And then under Clinton, we had Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Hungary go in the late 90s. Then in 2004, another 7 countries of NATO joined NATO, even though Russia had tried many times to join NATO. And it was a red line. The situation that happened in Ukraine, unfortunately, when obviously after the Maidan and Poroshenko began the process with Ukraine wanting to join NATO, that was Russia's red line, and we all knew it. And unfortunately, it's not an excuse for violence and conflict. But if history tells us, like if you look back in history in a geopolitical sense, you can look at what happened in the Cuban Missile Crisis. When the US put nukes into Turkey, Russia responded by wanting to put nukes onto Cuba, and that almost caused the next, a nuclear war. And the same situation now is happening when Zelensky was voted in with a big majority, and then he openly boasted about asking for NATO to bring nuclear weapons to Russia's border. Now that's, by any stretch of the imagination, a red line that can't be crossed. If Russia or China went to set up nukes for their own facilities in Mexico or Canada, it would be the same situation. So again, it doesn't make all this right. It's a horrible situation, and I'm sorry that your country is going through what it's going through. But I'm mortified that Ukrainians are being used as a battering ram by NATO and the West to destabilise Russia and kill Russians, and in the process killing hundreds of thousands of young Ukrainian men in particular. I'm absolutely disgusted by it. But unfortunately, I can't pretend that we in the West did not play a major role in that.
Okay, so the answer is no, because we need to know as a local community, you could have consulted with us. That's the point of the question. Thank you.
Look, so I didn't even know you were here. So look, now you're here. I'd love to talk with you about it. But again, I had no clue you're even imported, and I didn't know that.
Okay, as I said, Tanupur Helen Community Engagement Team. You can just Google or find on Facebook associations of Ukrainians. It wouldn't be a difficult task. That's why we ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any more public questions at all? Yes, do you want to come forward, state your name and address for the record, please? Thank you.
Yeah, John Ashton, 11 Spoonbill Crescent, South Hedland. How are we all going? Good? All right, I've got a couple of questions. Mayor Peter Carter, let's get straight to it. Did the idea to push for a no confidence vote against Councillor McRae come from your own thinking?
My own thinking, thank you. Next question.
Sorry, what was that?
My own thinking.
Okay. Righto. Well then, Mayor Peter Carter, do you think it's appropriate to propose a motion of no confidence against Councillor McRae without discussing it with the rest of the council or other stakeholders? And why are you focusing on Councillor McRae's trip to Russia when he wasn't even a councillor at the time? Is there any specific laws he's broken?
I'm not saying you break any law. What I'm saying is I made the motion of no confidence. It was my decision only to do that, okay? I didn't consult any of the other councillors. It was my own decision at that time to do so.
But why did you propose to do it when he wasn't even a councillor?
He was elected.
But
Thank
that's,
you. Next question.
he hadn't even accepted
Next,
it.
do you have another question?
Well, geez, you...
Do you have another question? Yes or no?
Yeah, I do. No,
Okay.
yeah,
You have one more
just
question?
settle.
Thank you.
Settle down. Okay, Mayor Peter Carter. I've just got a quick one for Councillor McRae, if you don't mind.
Certainly.
Okay. The media, Councillor McRae, the media is suggesting you're a threat to national security just because you're on the council. What's your take on that?
Look, is that okay for me to answer?
Yeah, please.
Look, the media said some pretty crazy things in the last 3 weeks. That's one of them. But certainly a threat to national security is, you know, it's hilarious. But what I am a threat to is definitely the national narrative, particularly around the narrative of Russia being, you know, when Penny Wong says, you know, the Russian election was a disgrace to democracy. That is, you know, just, it's pure nonsense. So they do have a very open and fair election process in that country. Now, of course, there's can be a million questions around candidacy and who runs, and you know, we can talk for hours about that. But the process itself, because that's what I went to Russia to do, was to observe as an international foreign observer. So, you know, when I reported back the truth of what I saw, that is the threat to the national narrative rather than the threat to national security. So, yeah, look, obviously there's a narrative that's being put out there, and you know, we continue in the West to beat the drums of war with Russia, and of course, you know, to get the public on side, we need to, you know, part of getting public support for any type of war, particularly war with Russia, because that will be a world war. They need to have public support, and public need to think that Russia is not a democracy, but it clearly is a democracy.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Okay, thank you, John. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
just...
Thank you. You've had 3 questions. Thank you. Do you have any other public questions at all? Yes, do you come forward, state your name and address for the record, please? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gillian Fisher. I reside at 3 Mitchie Crescent in South Hedland. Thank you for allowing us to have some question time today. I do have one for Councillor McRae, and then I have another couple for the council afterwards. Councillor McRae, Channel 7 in their introduction to the news segment on the Thursday, the 28th of March, stated that the Russian government paid for your trip. Is this true? What expenses did they cover?
Channel 7 said that many lies in that news item. I lost count, but no, I paid for my entire trip, paid for my hotels, paid for my food, I even paid for my translators' meals at every lunch and dinners on every day through the election process. But no, there wasn't a single cent paid by the Russian government, except for they did supply me a car and a driver to go anywhere and visit any voting booth over the 3 days of the election process. So other than that, there was nothing. I was given nothing. It was all out of my own pocket.
And that car and driver was standard across all the other independent observers?
Exactly, yeah. All foreign observers, all 1,300 foreign observers all had a car and a driver.
Wow, that's huge. Okay, the other one I'd just like to ask is, this is towards the Mayor and the Council. Why has a special council meeting been called when the rationale on the document signed by the Mayor to call a special council meeting has already been satisfactorily answered on Thursday the 29th of March by the CEO's statement clarifying that Adrian McRae travelled to Russia in a personal capacity. The town does not comment on the personal activities of elected members. All elected members are subject to the town's code of conduct. Can you explain why we are here tonight?
Yeah, I call the special council meeting for the vote of no confidence. Next question.
So you're not going to discuss the rationale that you wrote?
No.
Okay. No worries. So the last one is, this is towards the Mayor and the Council. Can you please cite specific sections of the Local Government Act or any other relevant council legislation that Councillor McRae has breached?
They'll come up later on in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any more public questions at all? Okay, I will. I'll come forward, take your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Marion Browning and I'm at 233 Collier Drive in South Hedland. Nice hairstyle tonight, thanks. Mr Mayor, I thought I had Elvis in the house. This question is for you. In the North West Telegraph, when you were faced with the motion and vote of no confidence that was against you, it states that you did not understand the need for tokenistic proceedings.
Excuse me, the meeting tonight is about Adrian McKay, so
I'm getting to that point. That's just a precursor. Thank you. What did you mean by tokenistic proceedings and how would that differ from this meeting tonight?
Well, it does. And next question, please. Thank you. Next question.
Well,
Next question. Do you have another question?
Hey, look, I know you want me to ask the next question, but
Do you have another question?
Just look.
If you don't have
We'll
another
take
question,
a breath. Let's just take a breath.
do you have another question? Yes or no?
You've put this motion forward,
Yes,
so why
correct.
can't you talk at that capacity
It'll
as
come
to
up.
why
It'll
you
come.
did that?
It will come up, okay? Just do you have another question,
Right.
please?
Point
I
of
do. I
order.
have two more.
So,
So,
keep going.
Point
Rejected.
of order.
Yes, Councillor. What is it?
It is 6.78A. The presiding member is to respond personally or ask another member or an employee to respond if you can't. So can we have a response to that question, Mr Mayor?
No, we can't. Rejected.
Are
Thank
you
you.
overruling that point of order, Mr Mayor?
Next question, please.
Are you overruling
Yes.
the point? Yes?
Yes.
Motion of dissent?
No, thank you.
Motion of dissent. Do I have a seconder? I have a seconder, Mr Mayor. Do I have... Would you like to carry on? Would you like me to carry on?
Oh, we'll carry on. Thank you.
Do I have any against the motion?
Point of order through the chair.
So for the council aside, Councillor.
Point of order through the chair.
Yes, Councillor.
As rightfully so has been raised by the councillor to my left, we are sticking to the business of agendas here. So can we please ensure that a ruling is made, and then second that ruling, we've just had a request of a motion of dissent put against that decision. It is not up to a personal conversation from the mayor to make that decision. It must now go to a seconder, which we have got.
Yes.
It must now go to a vote. So can we please ensure the good governance of this proceedings is followed, please?
Certainly, Councillor. Was Councillor McRae was seconder? Okay. All those in favour? Okay.
Mr Mayor, can you answer the question?
Okay, can you repeat that question again, please?
sure. Thank you. Do you want me to do the precursor or just
No,
the
just the
question?
question. Just the question, fine.
What did you mean by tokenistic proceedings and how would that differ from this current meeting that you've brought forward tonight?
Well, it does, and basically it's I moved the vote of no confidence against Adrian McRae. Okay, the same as it was done against myself, and that's basically that's it. Simple as that.
Right.
Okay, next question.
Sounds pretty airless, but anyway. Okay, next question. What's the difference between your private capacity travelling to Vietnam and Adrian's private capacity to travel to Russia?
That's not that's not for questions. Thank you very much.
Well, it is.
It's not. It's not.
Well, it is
Thank you.
because
I
we've
said it's
actually
not.
had a response
I said it's not. Thank
from
you.
the CEO
sorry.
stating that he was there on a
It's
in
not.
private capacity.
It's not up for
so
debate.
if you could please tell
Can
me
you
the
please sit down?
difference, that
Sit
would be
down. No,
fantastic.
sit down.
I'm not
Point
sitting
of
down.
order.
I'm not sitting
Point
down.
of order.
I have one more question.
One more question.
Mr
Yes, sir.
Mayor,
Yes,
I
Councillor.
call the point of order.
Yes, what is it, Councillor?
Again, Mr Mayor, 678A. If you can't answer the question, pass the question over to somebody else or answer the question, Mr Mayor.
The questions that... Answer the question. Ask me the question again.
What's the difference between your private capacity travelling to Vietnam in your private capacity and Adrian's travelling to Russia in his private capacity? What is the difference?
There's a lot of difference, okay? There's a lot of difference. I'm not going to go into it, but there's a lot of difference. Okay? Thank you. That's it.
Maybe an example would be good?
No.
Just one?
No, there's a lot of difference. Thank you.
All right, okay.
Okay. Please sit down. You've had 3 questions.
I've got one more question.
You've had 3 questions?
I've only had 2 questions.
You've had 3 questions?
No, I haven't.
You've had 3 questions.
I've only
Sit down.
had 2 questions.
Sit down. You've had 3 questions.
So, through the chair for Councillor McRae, is it okay?
You've had 3 questions.
I have not had 3 questions. I've only got 2 here. I've got the third one. So do I have...
Okay, continue.
Thank you. The media, Councillor McRae, the media has implied that you are engaging with government officials. I'd like to know, did you meet Putin?
I didn't meet Putin, but the opportunity to go to an event with Putin after the election was on, but I chose not to. I wasn't there to meet Putin. I'm not interested in meeting Putin. I went there to oversee an election, and I met lots of other really interesting people from around the world that were there to do the same thing as I was, and we all went for dinner ourselves. So, no, I didn't meet any government officials. I met one of the ex-presidential candidates who dropped out of the race about 6 weeks before the race, Sergei Baburin, but he's no longer a government member. He ran for a while, but he decided against running because he said, well, there's a special military operation happening. He dropped out of the race. He said he didn't want to cause further or any kind of I guess, separation or dissent in the country. He just thought that the country should be united around that time, so that's why he dropped out.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have any more public questions at all? Yes, Renee, come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Renee Coles, 58 Green Place in South Hedland. Wow, what a great way to spend our ratepayers' money. So, are we, WA, in line with the Victorian councils, where it clearly states that international conflicts are not the role of local councils? Are we in line with the same as what they have got over there? Because as clearly stated by Mr McRae, councillor, he was over there to oversee an election process only. He has clearly stated he does not align with the values of what Putin stands for, but merely took an opportunity to go over there to be able to see what happens during an election process in another country. So I ask the question, is WA in line with Victorian councils in regards to that international conflicts are not the role of local councils?
I'm not 100% sure. I'll take that on notice for you. Next question.
Okay. My next question. Mr Mayor, did this...
Mr Mayor, I'll call a point of order on that one. Again...
What's your point of order, councillor?
The same as the last 2, 6, 7, 8A. If you cannot answer that question, Mr Mayor, pass it to somebody that can. I'm happy to answer that question if you like.
No, I took it on notice. Thank you.
Is that your ruling?
Yes. Thank you.
Motion of dissent.
For a seconder. Or against? Good.
Okay. Can you pass the question to somebody, or I'm happy to answer it if you like?
No. For the vote. Waiting for the vote. Councillor? No, the second. Councillor Button was the seconder. Is there any against that motion? Those in favour? Yep. Okay, it's passed.
Would you like me to answer that question, Mr Mayor?
Well, I'm not sure. I actually don't know the answer to that question, Victoria Council.
I can answer that question if you like. The local governments across WA and even across Australia have 4 things in common: roads, rates, rubbish and recreation. Local governments are not supposed to get involved in international affairs, climate change, all of the stuff that they seem to be getting involved in. So our mandate is the 4 R's.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is nothing to do with us. This should be a federal conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, because
Next
I was
question.
completely aware of the actual answer myself, because I've actually done my own investigation into that. So thank you so much, Mr. Councillor Blanco, for answering that one.
Do you have another
My
question?
next, yes, absolutely. My next question: when this motion was actually put ahead, had you, before this motion, taken the time out to have the conversation with Councillor Murray, whilst there was recently a briefing in which councillors had an opportunity to go ahead and ask councillor the questions, if any concerns that they had, including councillors allegedly saying that they too, if they were given an opportunity, would have gone over and seen an election process. So when this was put up, had you had a discussion with the councillor at the time?
No, I haven't.
So you've had zero discussions
Zero
with the
discussion.
councillor?
Zero discussion, correct.
Well, that's great governance for you,
thank you.
isn't it?
Next question. You had 3 questions.
Love to have one more, thank you.
No, you've had 3 questions. Thank you. Please sit down.
I've only had 2.
You've had 3.
2,
Point
actually.
of order through the chair.
Yes.
While I understand this is going to be a very touchy subject for a lot of members of the public tonight and ourselves on this panel, can I please ask that we respect the decision of the Mayor, whether we like it or not, and allow for the board to pull the member up as we have previously tonight, as you can clearly see. I really don't want to sit here all night and going back and forth, please. We understand there's going to be some limitations as we've previously seen, so can I please just ask Mr Mayor, again, make a stance, and then again we let it play as a decision is made until a board member has said otherwise, please.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Okay, please have one more question.
One more? Okay. Judging by the newspaper article that was written just recently, that was out before in regards to this particular motion coming forward, was that the view of every single councillor inciting a vigilante against Councillor McRae at any stage, with a media release that came out that clearly stated that, I'm just trying to pull the actual picture up, bear with me because I'll have to screenshot some stuff. Was the rest of the council aware of what was said, and do they align to what was actually written at that particular time?
I don't believe it was a vigilante at all. Thank you very much. Okay, in that statement, it wasn't vigilante, you said.
But my question is, did everyone align to what was actually written?
I approve the statement, that's all. Thank you.
So the statement was on behalf of all the council?
Of myself, correct. I approved it. Thank you. Do you have any more public questions at all?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to let...
Thank you. Jane, come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Councillor, Deputy Mayor, and staff, and that, and also it's Jan Gillingham from 3 Simmons Street in Port Hedland. I'd also like to say a welcome to fellow countrymen from Ukraine. My family come from the Czech Republic, and I feel your pain, as many of us in this room do, and I understand that why you're here, and I hope you'll understand why I'm here as well. Thank you. Excuse my back. Sorry about that, Mayor Carter.
It's okay.
I would like to, Mayor Carter, please ask my first question to newly elected Councillor McRae, please.
Certainly.
Thank you. Councillor McRae, as a newly elected member of the Town of Port Hedland Council, I do know, and I have done my homework, that as a humanitarian, which you are, I'd like to ask how many other worldwide representatives were either invited or attended to be also humanitarians, to be scrutineers for the other candidates running in the recent elections in Russia and the elections overall, if you're able to answer that, please. Thank you.
Okay, so international foreign observers, over 2,000 were invited, but there was just about 1,299 from over 130 countries. That included current and past US congressmen. It had current members of parliament from almost every country in Africa, almost every country in South America, what we call the Global South. There was international human rights lawyers that were there, that just travel the world monitoring international elections in what they call the spirit of freedom and democracy. There was, I met, I'll say it in my speech later, I met the longest standing commander of the International Space Station, cosmonaut Talgat Musabayev. Just very high level people from all over the world. In fact, I would have been, I would say, a clear daylight last in regard to the calibre of the people who were there. I was invited because of my, I guess, my high level political connections in the US and in Australia, and you know, I through my philanthropy in Africa and things I do, I'm kind of well known, you know, in various places around the world, and so through my reputation that I have, that's why I personally was invited. So it was, yeah, look, I was honoured to be asked, and I didn't go there with any preconceived notions. I kind of went over expecting to, you know, to see the dodginess that we're all told about Russia in the election process. But I was quite surprised. But back to your question, sorry, there was over 1 million Central Election Commission workers. There was over 300,000 volunteer observers working across all 11 time zones of Russia, working on the election, and they come from all the various parties and all the various candidates. So certainly in my experience with international elections, I've never seen anything so transparent with regard to the number of volunteers, the calibre of volunteers, and the way in which the process was run.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer. I'd like to just, for this next question, I'd like to ask Mayor and councillors, but I'd just like to take everybody back to the North West Telegraph of March the 13th, which says, "Welcome Matt out for the town's new councillor." Welcome Matt. Councillor McRae was away at the time, still trying to get a flight back to Australia, I do believe, and to come back. So welcome Matt out. And I guess you've all probably read that. If not, you'll find it in the March the 13th, 2004. So my question to Mayor and councillors are, I was at the swearing-in ceremony for newly elected Councillor McRae and the meeting that was held. I'd like to ask how many councillors, Mayor included, actually welcomed Councillor McRae and reached out to welcome Councillor McRae at that swearing-in ceremony, because I did take the numbers down. So how many of you did actually go up and personally welcome newly elected Councillor McRae?
Yes, Councillor.
I'll start the ball rolling, I guess. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be present on the night. However, yes. I did give a phone call to Councillor McRae to congratulate him on his appointment and wish him all the best, and ask him if he had any questions or concerns, please reach out to me, as I had some prior commitments on that day.
Okay, and I think I saw another hand here and another hand over here. So 1, 2, 3 people haven't seen. And I did see that at that meeting and took particular notice of that meeting, because I'm quite observant. And I'm quite other people in the audience did as well. So it's pretty disappointing to say that that welcome mat did not really come out, really, did it? Okay, so that was my question. But thank you for being honest.
Through the chair.
Thank you very much.
Through the chair. Can I
Thank you. My question's next, I believe. Thank you.
Well, no, just
Sorry.
to make a response.
Yeah, please. Councillor.
So, at the time, I was unable to attend the swearing-in ceremony due to work commitments, so it wasn't. Well, that's true. So it's not a case of not showing the welcome mat or not being civil or things like that. Simply was not able to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Jan, one more
Thank
question?
you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's okay.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Bland.
Hi,
Sorry.
Jan.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Councillor Rebello. Thank you.
On the night on which the swearing-in was scheduled, it had to be cancelled because Councillor McRae was not in town.
Understand.
But on the day that it was set up in the morning, so it was a bit of very little notice to attend. However, when I came into chambers, the first thing I did was and you can confirm with him, I shook hands with him and I congratulated him. Thank you.
Yes, and you did too. Yes, thank you. Yes, I did attend the morning and I did attend the meeting in the afternoon. Thank you. And my final question is also to Councillor McRae, if I may.
Yes, certainly.
All
Yes.
right, thank you. Since this information is just circulating all around Australia and the world, and I've even had messages from overseas, etc., Councillor McRae, how many councillors have you actually been able to, or have you been able to reach out to discuss what is going to be discussed tonight? Because what I have heard earlier this evening is that no consultation has been with the councillors on tonight's meeting, which is, it's pretty disappointing that you as a whole council has not been able to sit and talk, and maybe we would not be here this evening having this special meeting called, if there had been a consultation. But just asking Councillor McRae, how many people have you reached out to see, to perhaps talk to them? Because I believe you have done so from a couple of the councillors which I spoke to. Thank you.
I've spoken with most of the councillors here actually, either personally one-on-one, or we had a meeting in the back of the room here only a few weeks ago, just soon after I got back, and certainly Ash and Milo and Lorraine have probably been the most proactive in reaching out to me, but everyone else except for the Mayor actually has sat down with me, and we had long discussions about it around the table, and I think, as was mentioned earlier, that certainly everyone was really intrigued by the trip, and as mentioned, I accepted going on the trip in January, I think, before I even put my name in the ring for the council, to run for the council. It was sort of exciting to me to go and see, how a superpower of the world runs their election, especially one that is we've all sort of grown up so mystical and the dark side of Russia. It was really interesting for me to go and see that. But yeah, look, I think everyone here except the Mayor has sat down and talked to me, and everyone else seemed quite comfortable with the whole process and what happened. And yeah, I was that's why I was quite shocked when Wednesday last week at our pre-meeting briefing, we were dumped with the fact that we're having this vote of no confidence. So yeah, it's only obviously the Mayor said it was just his doing, but he's the only one that hasn't spoke to me about it.
Thank you for the explanation. Thank you, Mayor Carter, for allowing me my questions.
Yeah, no problems at all. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Do you have any more public questions at all? I will close public question time at 5:13 p.m. Okay. We have public statement time. 4.2. I declare public statement time open at 5:13 p.m. Mr. CEO, have received any public statements at all?
We've not received any, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. Do any members of the public have any public statements at all? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria Malik, Athol Street. Actually, for the public statements, we have quite a few from Ukrainian community. We have some printouts. This is my statement first, so can I ask someone to help me to distribute to the councillors?
That's fine, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my mother and I are from Kharkiv. There are some photos from my city, I think quite relevant. I just would like to appeal to the councillors today to understand how Councillor McRae's statements on the media made in April affected us as local voters. We are citizens, we are permanent residents here, even displaced people, how the statement affected us. So my mother and I are from Kharkiv, located just 30 kilometers south of the Russia-Ukraine border, a city that is a major target for the Russian military. I migrated to Australia 12 years ago and I have been calling Hedland home for the last 10 years. I became an Australian citizen 8 years ago. My mother, Nina, has been living in Hedland since 2019. Nearly every day, our home city and its critical infrastructure are bombarded with the Russian missiles and drones killing civilians. There is a photo of the administration building in my city, so-called civic center like we're here, and it's completely destroyed. There was a missile attack by Russia and it killed 29 people. Imagine, councillors, you come to work and you just die. So it's a miracle our family home hasn't been destroyed. Unfortunately, another weapon used by Kremlin is disinformation. Russia is trying to shape perception and discourse in the democratic societies and reduce support for Ukraine. It's extremely sad to see that the local council member, whose role is to provide leadership and guidance to the community, publicly repeats those narratives and that are manipulating opinions of Australians. I'm referring to Councillor McRae's interviews with the Current Affairs, Radio 6PR, Perth, and the Aussie Cossack show on YouTube. The last one is particularly disturbing as it was given to a controversial personality. Here are some of the Kremlin-generated narratives Mr. McRae repeated. Russian elections are transparent, the Ukrainian government is illegitimate and violent, the United States led a violent coup against Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, Western media are anti-Russian, purposely spread disinformation and propaganda. The war is a result of NATO and Western globalist aggression against Russia. Russia is not responsible for the MH crash. So the last statement, the MH investigation lasted 9 years. It involved dozens of prosecutors and 200 investigators. International prosecutors say they found strong indications Russian President Vladimir Putin approved the use of a Russian missile system that shot down flight MH17 over eastern Ukraine in 2014. In his last interview, Mr. McRae even used the term, even today I heard it, special military operation, instead of the word war. It is an official softer term only used by the Russian government to denote its invasion of Ukraine. In fact, people can get imprisoned in Russia for using the word war. Academics, government, journalists, and civil society initiatives across the world have dedicated efforts to monitor, report, debunk, or take down the above-mentioned statements of Russian propaganda. We as Ukrainian community here strongly disagree with the above statement claims by Councillor McRae. If a popular movement is pro-democracy and pro-reform and not deemed to be in Russia's geopolitical interest, the Kremlin will often attack its legitimacy and claim that the United States is secretly behind it. Unfortunately, Mr. McRae also seems to deny that Ukrainians could have dignity and independent inspiration to advocate for themselves. Our Ukrainian community, as I said, is not aware of any attempts made by Mr. McRae to consult with us. As we know what's happening in Ukraine, not just from the media, but from our friends and families there. Also, there are displaced people in our town who have witnessed the war. Elected officials play a crucial role in shaping public opinion and influencing discourse. When Councillor McRae repeats Kremlin narratives, it amplifies the reach and credibility of the disinformation, as his words carry weight and are often trusted by his audience. We're extremely distressed that the local council representative is actively spreading Russian disinformation and propaganda about its war in Ukraine and Australia. We have already noticed an uptick in anti-Ukrainian attitudes in the Everything Headland Facebook groups. Like, if you're against Putin, you are Nazi, and all that anti-Ukrainian insults. We hope this misinformation wouldn't lead to further tensions with our multicultural community. We are appealing to the councillors to urge them to condemn the statements made by Mr. McRae. Thank you. And I have another statement from Natalia Klimenko. I would like to read for her because she doesn't speak English well enough to do that.
That's okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So we distributed some photos of the elections held in Natalia's region. She is originally from Donetsk, where so-called Russian sham elections took place. So it's an occupied, annexed territory of Ukraine. And Natalia is residing at Stals Road. So I'll read her statement. In his interview to Pers 6 PR station, Councillor McRae stated that for 8 years Ukraine had marginalized Russian-speaking folks in eastern Ukraine, particularly in Donetsk region, started from 2014. This is complete lie. I came from that region, currently occupied and annexed by Russia, and still have family members living there. We had been living happily there until Russia decided to intervene in 2014. In my native town Dokuchayevsk, 40 kilometers south of Donetsk, pro-Ukrainian activists had been kidnapped, tortured and murdered, including our local police officer who refused to take off the Ukrainian flag from the police station. All Ukrainian TV channels and mobile networks were disconnected. We couldn't call out relatives living outside of the region. In July 2014, I witnessed Russian soldiers bringing the Grad rocket launcher to our suburb and shelling the city. Later, they claimed in media that the missiles had been launched from the Ukrainian side. Ukrainian territories that Russia unlawfully occupies have served as a testing ground for the Kremlin's information operations. Prison sentences of 10 to 15 years as punishment for people for making social media posts expressing dissent towards Russia has become a common practice for courts in the region under Russian control. In the propaganda and disinformation campaigns, no information channels have been deemed too small or unimportant. The occupying forces mobilized all resources available, from small local television stations and newspapers to micro-influencers on Facebook, prior to the platform shutdown in Russia and territories it controls. These information channels would often cross-post each other's stories, amplifying the impact of propagandist narratives. My region has long served as a testing ground for tactics Russia has now been deploying both domestically and globally. I also witnessed forced Russian citizenship campaign, which has denied access to basic life necessities for residents of the occupied territories who refused to apply for Russian passports. This included denial of medical services, social benefits, the ability to drive and to work, and threats of violence, intimidation, detention, or deportation. Russia's occupied forces in Ukraine have made access to certain medicine and medical care conditional on accepting Russian citizenship. This restriction forces vulnerable persons, including residents who are elderly, have chronic medical problems, have disabilities, or have low income, to accept Russian citizenship, especially when they are unable to leave the occupied areas. After experiencing 6 months of Russian occupation, I couldn't stay any longer there, and I was forced to flee to the territory controlled by Ukraine. 8 years later, I was forced to flee again, this time to Australia, because Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Councillor McRae has shown an appalling lack of judgment by offering his public support in the media, both in Russia and in Australia, for Putin's recent sham elections held in Donetsk and other Russia-occupied territories of Ukraine. I know that people still live in from people still living in the Donetsk region, that during the so-called election, voters in the occupied territories were also not obliged to come for polling stations. Members of local election commissions went door to door with voting boxes and ballots accompanied by armed servicemen. And you can see their photos with the armed servicemen and how the so-called elections took place. People were voting and signing their ballots on top of cars used as mobile polling stations. There was no independent observation. The election commissions were formed without party representatives, and you can vote not only with the Russian passport, but with the expanded list of documents, an ideal atmosphere for fraud. So there are photos showing local residents voting in the 2024 Russian presidential elections in Donetsk. So, Councillor McRae, you're calling this fair and transparent elections? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other public statements at all? Yes. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Anna, and I'm from a small village called Tokari in Sumy region in Ukraine, which is 100 kilometers from the Russian border. Now I'm here in Port Hedland. I thought I was far from Russia and could feel secure, trying to save some money and send to my family. But even here, when I heard what Consul Andrian McRae was saying on the radio and the interview Ozzy Kozak show, I recognized Russian propaganda in his speeches. Andrian McRae, in interview you said that you were telling the truth. Why then on April 7, minutes 56, in Ozzy Kozak show interview, did you lie and call open Russian attack on Ukraine a special military operation? At 1 hour and 11 minutes, Andrian McRae granted an interview to a journalist who referred to Ukrainian people as a Nazi and citizens of the Ukraine government. Andrian McRae called President Zelensky dictator. Use your second lie. I, along with many of my relatives and friends, vote for President Zelensky. If I choose my president and listen to your conversation with a journalist, does it mean that I'm Nazi? Because I'm Ukrainian. Or is how is journalist, or is how it's working your propaganda? My president, whom I choose and asking for help from another country in the interview, the journalist spoke about honest battle between the soldiers. Did you, Andrian McRae, realize how much bigger Russia is by size and population? I printed map, just you can see it. And as on 2022, the Russian population is 144.2 million and Ukrainian is 38 million. And Russia has nuclear weapons. On 1 hour and 15 minutes, the Kozak show journalist said that it's not Russia who killed Ukrainians. Another lie. In February 2022, my family lived under occupation without electricity, normal food, and enough water, enduring daily shelling and explosion. On March 7, my neighbor was killed. You have a photo of his family. The family lived in village Tokari in the Sumy region. A couple with a small son in their arms tried to escape from the blocked city. The car in which they were traveling was shot from the Russian army from tank. They couldn't find body of child because from tank you can't find nothing. One shot, 3 lost soul. Mikhailo, 30 years old, Inna, 33 years old, and Yefrem, almost 2 years old. Mikhailo Facebook still is open. If you want to see how he was live his life, you can still do it. On 1 hour and 16 minutes, the journalist said that they don't bomb civilians. It's another lie. My cousin, Inna Panasenko, is from the Kharkiv region village of Sirkuni, which is 29 kilometers from the border. She, her husband, and their small daughter live in basement for over 2 months without electricity. I didn't know if they were alive. Then, at the beginning of May, I got a message from them saying that they had survived. Here, the photo that they took from their car. There is a photo. But they can't go back because rockets come every day. They can't go back to their home. On April 11, 2022, control over the state borders in Sumy region was fully restored. The defense force finally deoccupied Sumy Oblast, but it's not finished. Since that day, Russia soldiers have been targeting civilian infrastructure such as kindergarten, school, shops, church. You can only imagine what it's like to live under the pressure every day. My heart breaks when I speak to my relatives. Some of them have severe depression, and I can't help them. It makes me miserable. I had never been so long apart from my family in my life. I can only see them online if they have electricity, because now, after the Russia targeting all electricity, sometimes they not have electricity. It's the way how I can call them. I have more relatives and friends all around Ukraine who suffer from rockets attack every day. They are civilian living in village and city, not even close to military units. Anyone who endorses Putin is willing to put up with outrageous level of corruption, violence, accept the suppression of basic human rights and needs, and that is too scary. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak up, and thank you for supporting Ukraine. Thank you.
Do you have any more public statements at all? Yes. Come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Yulia. I'm living on the Stiles Road, and I'm from Ukraine, and I would like to read my statement.
Certainly.
According to a statement Councillor McRae made in the media that there is discrimination against Russian speakers, I would like to read my statement. Ukraine's history is rich in culture and linguistic diversity, with Russian-speaker citizens having always been an important part of Ukrainian society. First, it's essential to know that the Constitution of Ukraine guarantees rights and freedoms to all citizens, regardless of their language preferences. Article 10 of the Constitution states that the state language of Ukraine is Ukrainian, but it also guarantees the free use of languages of national minorities. This indicates that Ukrainian legislation does not contain provisions designed to oppress Russian speakers. Second, Ukraine has always offered the possibility of obtaining an education in Russian, particularly in regions with a high concentration of Russian-speaker citizens. Schools, universities, and other educational institutions provide opportunities to study Russian language and culture. This further supports the view that language rights are respected in Ukraine. Additionally, there are numerous Russian language media outlets in Ukraine, including newspapers, television, radio, and online publications. Russian-speaker citizens can watch programs, read news, and listen to music in their native language. This also demonstrates that there is no systematic oppression of Russian speakers in Ukraine. Moreover, political parties and public organizations representing the interests of Russian-speaker citizens can freely participate in Ukraine's political and public life. They can express their opinions, participate in elections, and engage in political activities, which also indicates the absence of oppression. Despite existing disagreements and tensions, especially after 2014, there is no evidence of systematic oppression of Russian speakers in Ukraine. Ukrainian society is diverse, and every citizen has the right to speak the language that is closest to them, without fear of persecution or discrimination. I was born in Donetsk region and started school in 1995, receiving my entire education in Russian, despite Ukrainian being the state language. Neither my family nor I ever spoke Ukrainian. We only spoke Russian. From childhood and in school, everything Russian was promoted as superior, while Ukrainian was presented as inferior. If you spoke Ukrainian, you were mocked and considered as a village person in a derogatory sense. After graduating in 2009, I began working as event coordinator for local government, and it was only then that official documentation started being kept in Ukrainian 18 years after Ukraine gained independence. This clearly shows that Russian speakers were never oppressed, but instead it was the Ukrainian speakers who faced discrimination with attempts to erase Ukrainian culture. In east of Ukraine, from 18th to 19th, 90% of the population didn't even know Ukrainian, which makes the claims of Adrian McRae entirely untrue, mere propaganda, and part of the Russian narrative to destroy Ukraine and its culture. It is personally painful and scary to hear that from someone representing the state of Australia, which has supported Ukraine and its people since the beginning of the full-scale invasion and has given refuge to me and many other Ukrainians. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any more public statements at all? Come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Svetlana Haikina. I live on Sazman Street. My heritage is a Belarusian Jew. My family fled Belarus in 1993 to escape anti-Semitism, the outfall of Chernobyl atomic station disaster, and to seek better opportunities away from Russia's centralized and widespread bullying. My family immigrated to the US as refugees and subsequently became US citizens. I came to Australia on a work visa in 2008 and subsequently became Australian citizen. I have been a resident of town of Port Hedland for over 3 years. Many Ukrainian friends and family are directly and indirectly affected by the war in Ukraine. I know of many first-hand accounts of how the war affected civilians who had to flee Ukraine after the full-scale war started to save their lives, who have lost their houses, their lives, their stability, and their future because of the war. The war is very close to home for me, and I have tried to do my part in assisting those Ukrainians who managed to come to Australia and try to make it their new home. Russia is and has been a bully state since before Stalin era, persecuting Jews, invading sovereign territories and grabbing resources which do not belong to them, stripping wealth of neighboring republics and countries, weaponizing food, resources, and trading oil illegally. These are historical facts dating from before the World War II and to the modern day and can be easily checked. I am also very well aware of the discrimination and propaganda machine powered by Putin yes-men and internet troll farms supported by Russian government. These sources do not play by the rules. They're insidious in their ways of recruiting people across the world to propagate their lies, plant seeds of extremism and dissonance in balanced democratic societies. Adrian McRae is one of these people spreading misinformation about the war in Ukraine and Russia's role in it. I do not want to address Adrian McRae or ask him any questions, as he has discredited himself in my eyes by spreading disinformation and unchecked defamatory and disrespectful comments in our community. He does not speak for me, my family, and my friends as a counselor. His associates are confirmed, and I refer to the article that you have received, to have been spreading not only disinformation about the war in Ukraine, but also lies, anti-Semitic comments, and defamatory statements about the deadly attacks in a mall in Sydney 2 weeks ago. I'd like to instead address the decision makers with the power to decide the future of Adrian McRae as a councillor of the town of Port Hedland and ask them, what is the benefit to the town to have someone like this man on the council? In a town which supports the lion's share of Australian economy, the town which supported the country during COVID through a very tough lockdown, the town where cybersecurity is paramount to its main income generators and to promoting the trade and resources industry in Australia, the town struggling with labor supply and which can benefit from seeing more Ukrainians who fled the war and want to make a life in Australia coming over to close many of the labor shortage gaps. The multicultural town with strong community support, no matter your creed, background, and beliefs. the town where extremism, disinformation, and Russian-fueled propaganda, which will inevitably and undoubtedly lead to sabotage, will threaten all of Australians' economy, not only the stability in this town. I cannot see how Adrian McRae, with his views, which do not represent those of Australian government and go against it, go against the majority of Australians' views and views of the town's residents, how he can represent the government body in this town. How can he make our town more balanced, stable, prosperous, peaceful, and welcoming to all, including Ukrainians, Jews, Muslims, and anyone else? How he can work towards ensuring the future of this town is free from extremism, sabotage, which will interfere with the important work being carried out in this town to support the whole country. There is no benefit to keeping Adrian McRae on a council, and I trust the decision makers will take appropriate action to remove him from this office. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more public statements at all? Yes, Roger, come forward, take your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Roger Higgins, 19 Edgar Street. I moved to speak now because of the passion with which we've heard these people who have come from the Ukraine and how they've been affected by, Mr Mayor, your ill judgment in putting together this motion. It's just opened wounds that had been closed. Now, I speak with some experience. It's possible that I might be the oldest person in this room, but I'm one of the baby boomer generation. I went to primary school in Adelaide when primary schools in those days had the children of immigrants who had escaped and come to Australia as a result of the devastation their countries had experienced in World War II. I remember, if I can speak to our Ukrainian friends here, having one friend, Christina Vasquez, when I was in grade 5, who came from the Ukraine. I remember going to her house where her grandmother was and seeing her. Her grandfather had died in World War II. So I understand your passion. I really appreciate the things that you've said, and I think you've been very brave to come here and say it, and I really thank you for that. But having said that, I also want to say that I've also had, before Jennifer and I had children, we travelled to Europe in 1974 in the days when the USSR was in power. And in those days, you had the Ukraine being part of Russia. The politics have changed over time, but the people that still live in these places haven't. Hence, what you guys have said tonight. When I went there with Jennifer all those years ago, in 1974, we went by a road through Russia, having come in through Bulgaria, through Romania, then through Moldova, then into the Ukraine and then north. We went through Odessa and Kiev. We saw what the Ukrainian culture was in those places. The place in 1974 was still under Soviet control, but that's changed now. And unfortunately, what's happened as a result of what the Mayor's done is we've now created a division here between these dear people who we've spoken tonight and the rest of us. They don't quite know where they stand. Now, it doesn't... so we don't need to open wounds like this in our community. We try to be a community of one group of people with one who are here for the benefit of us all. It's not helpful to do this at all. And I just ask that when you consider this motion, you councillors, you think about what's going to be best for unity in this place. As I said earlier, Adrian was elected and took office. There was an election when he was away. He didn't take office until he got here. So I think that the whole thing is unnecessary. But we've got to go through this process tonight. So please consider what's really going on. We don't want division here, and I don't think that there should be division. And I don't think Adrian's presence on council is going to create any division, because he is an intelligent guy and he's been over there and made up his own mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any more public statements at all? Just do you want to come forward, state your name and address for the record, please? Thank you.
Yeah, g'day guys. John Ashton, 11 Spoonbill Crescent. Greetings to all Port Hedland and elected members. Today I stand before you to address the fair dinkum dodgy moves by Mayor Peter Carter, who has been having a go at our mate, Councillor Adrian McRae. Let's not beat around the bush. Mayor Carter been going after Councillor McRae for his trip to Russia. He's making a fuss about Councillor McRae getting involved in scrutineering the Russian elections, even giving Putin a nod for what he thought was a fair deal, which is just good manners and something not practiced enough in this day and age. But let's get real. While Councillor McRae was there, he didn't shy away from highlighting the real issues here in Port Hedland. Domestic violence, crime, housing, dramas, healthcare, you name it. But Mayor Carter and his crew are ignoring all that just to have a crack at Councillor McRae. And what's more, there's whispers about outside pressure, maybe from the state government or federal bigwigs trying to paint Councillor McRae as a crook or something, just because his story doesn't match theirs. It seems like they want to make Russia and Putin out as a big bad wolf, and anyone who thinks otherwise cops it. And let's not forget Mayor Carter's own shenanigans. While he's giving Councillor McRae grief for his Russia trip, he's off gallivanting into known communist countries himself, doing business as a private individual and as the Mayor of Port Hedland, sharing sensitive info left, right and centre. A bit rich, don't you think? So here's the deal. We can't let this slide. We've got to hold our representatives accountable. And I say representatives, you like to use the word leader, but that's a twist on our language. You're not my leader, you're my representative. I don't have a leader. So we've got to hold our representatives accountable, starting with Mayor Carter and his crew who want to silence anyone who speaks up. We voted in Councillor McRae by a great majority, considering there's only 1,600 people that got involved and he took over 70% of it. So, we voted Councillor McRae to have our backs and we're sticking by him. Fair income, all of this is over the top. And Mayor Carter, remember what you said to the North West Telegraph about legit no confidence vote against you in February. You called it tokenistic proceedings, a political move aimed to make you look bad and a waste of time. So what's the deal now? We're not buying it, mate. So let's make some noise, Port Hedland. Let's show that we won't tolerate this rubbish anymore. It shouldn't have even been brought up. It's done. He wasn't here, he was in his private capacity. I understand you people have had, you've got stuff going on over in the country, it's shit. I believe it. War is shit. But you're here in this country now, and you're not there. You've got our citizenship. So will you stick up for our country? I know it's a hard thing, war has. I have Aboriginal ancestors here. Look what's happened to them in this country, in my country. Do you see too many of them here, do you? You got rubbed out. So I can understand where they're coming from. So let's make some noise and knock this rubbish on the head. Thank you very much.
Do you have any more public statements at all? Yes, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tracy Lewis from 51 Roberts Street, South Hedland. I would just like to say I would like to see our council represent the people of Ukraine, the refugees of Ukraine, been friends of the West for many decades, independence in 1991. I'm only talking since the councillor became a councillor. I heard him on radio, and what I heard, I felt was obscene. I really did. When talking about the only opposition in Russia, he suggested that he didn't die in a gulag from his treatment. He died from 5 Pfizer injections. That's what I heard. Disgraceful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do you have any more public statements at all?
My name is Merrin Browning and I'm from 233 Collier Drive, South Hedland. Now, I just need to be very clear on this. These are not my words. These are from a Russian person and this is their statement. Before I start that, I just want to say to the Ukrainian people, I know that people can't hear, I'm really sorry for everything that you are going through with your families being so far away. My heart is with you guys, okay? So we are all here as one, and this is why you've probably come to Australia, to be a part of our beautiful community. And it is a beautiful community. And unfortunately, war is terrible. So when I read this statement, please bear that in mind. Thank you. As someone who grew up through the Soviet Union era and witnessed its collapse, I have seen firsthand the incredible transformation under Putin's leadership. Unlike the dark days of the past, Russia now thrives with growing gross domestic product, or GDP, rising wages and unprecedented prosperity. Russia stands tall, although being sanctioned to the eyeballs is a testament to Putin's strong and decisive governance. The Russian people had long yearned for strong leaders, and Putin embodies that strength. His words carry weight because when Putin says something, he delivers. After the coups of the USSR in 1991, the people depended on humanitarian aid to be fed, up until 2000 when Putin was elected. They had a mix of different leaders. Unemployment was 14%, inflation was high. Russia even defaulted on sovereign debt in 1998, and the GDP was -5 and 10%. And there was a civil war in Chechnya, which federal government was badly losing. At this time, despite having the largest agricultural land, Russia was the largest importer of wheat and other agricultural products. This continued for 9 years. Since Putin was elected in 2000, 24 years on, the country, as promised in Putin's election campaigns, has made a huge leap forward. The economy has increased fourfold. There is no inflation and is now the largest agricultural producer exporter in the world. And to put this into perspective, up until the year 2000, the Russian economy was smaller than the Australian economy. Financial reserves are now in the top 5 in the world, a huge difference in 1998, when our country had no money to service its debt. With no inflation and very high employment, a stark difference of the divide under post-Soviet Russia between 1991 and 2000, where only a privileged few thrived while the majority languished in poverty. Putin's leadership has shattered those inequalities, paving the way for a brighter future for all Russians. I would like to thank Councillor Adrian McRae for going above and beyond to seek and speak the truth regardless of the ridicule you are faced with. and I would like to part with these final words. No one agrees with wars. However, histories belie the fact that they are inevitable and that the leaders of the day are not without fault. The level of censorship and influence in media today is a sad travesty for all involved, no matter where we choose to lay our hearts and home. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more public statements at all? Yes, Chris, come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Chris Skelton, 3 Hawkins Street, South Hedland, known as Skelts in the community. Fasten your seats up. Fasten your seatbelts. I'm fired up. Councillors, as a community member who has gone through the extensive process of being involved and organising a special electors meeting, which was needed as a precursor to having a special council meeting, I am astounded at the haste that this council meeting has been convened. So what you're effectively saying is it's only a priority when it suits you and not when it suits the community. At the before-mentioned special council meeting, we as a community attended the meetings in numbers that had not been witnessed in a very long time, larger than what is here tonight. And what ended up happening? We were betrayed by the majority of our elected, yes, our elected council members. We elected you to represent us. You failed us. Having heard a council member saying that he was in for a fight, down for a fight, you caved under the pressure applied from the Mayor and the State Overlord, the Premier's office, citing you had received legal advice from the state government. How convenient. Conflict of interest much? The advice received via the Mayor was we could not win our legal challenge. How wrong you were. Countless legal cases are now being fought and won in the Supreme Courts nationally. You're wrong. We could have won. We could have started it. My point to that example is, again, you have been elected by us, your community members. You got it wrong the last time you sided with the Mayor, not your community. Do not do it again. Stop blindly following the Mayor. Councillor McRae, he's an amazing person and a true community leader. Adrian stood shoulder to shoulder with his community and fought for our rights against the tyranny inflicted against the citizens of Western Australia and Australia as a whole by the state governments of Australia. As mentioned before, Adrian, unlike the majority of our elected councillors, he fought for his community. He fought for us then and he will fight for us again. He will hold the Mayor accountable. Maybe that is what this farce is all about. Cannot control Adrian and fear will not be able to push through whatever agenda you have, as Adrian will ask questions and challenge you when the agenda is not in the community's interest. The smear campaign levelled at Adrian has been extensive and coordinated with the government and the ever-faithful mainstream media lapdogs. A vote of no confidence? What a joke. A vote of no confidence should be levelled against you, Mr. Mayor. Look in the mirror. He who lives in a glass house should not throw stones. Your own actions have brought much embarrassment to the community, the council and the office of the Mayor. Your own actions forced you to resign from the high school board. Shameful conduct. You all conveniently turn a blind eye to the actions of the Mayor while simultaneously feigning outrage and condemning Councillor McRae for what? Being interested in political process in Russia and having the opportunity to have a rare and privileged chance to be an international independent observer, not aligned with any Russian candidate. According to Adrian, it was one of the most free, fair and transparent elections he had ever witnessed. I mean, how dare Adrian to be polite after witnessing the election and congratulating the elected winner while being a guest in a foreign country is called being diplomatic. What should have Adrian done or said when being invited to speak again as an international independent observer and guest in Russia? Screw you, Putin. Let's be real. Irrespective of our personal views on Putin, like him or not, you cannot deny the fact he is overwhelmingly supported by the Russian people. The irony, the mayor and some of you and some in the community members are trying to do exactly what you accuse Putin of. You're attempting to silence and remove your political opponent. Let that sink in. Shame on you. In closing, let me say your feelings have no consequence here. Unless I am misinformed, Adrian did not break any laws. Curiosity in itself is not an illegal phenomenon. Whatever views and opinions are formed or expressed are just that, views and opinions. One final example I'll use, looking back on my working life, on many occasions when telling people of my new job and location, frequently I would have heard, "Oh, that's a terrible place to work. You won't like it there," to which I would always state, "I will always make my own mind up, as it is mine, my mind, not yours." Do not be blind sheep. Do not do as the mayor would wish you do. Vote as your community recently did. Vote for Adrian to remain so he can continue to do what the community elected him to do. Allow Adrian to serve his community. Thank you.
Do we have any more public statements at all? Yes, Renee, come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
So Renee Coles, 58 Green Place, South Hedland. Once again, like everyone else that stood here before, we wish to say sorry for what you're actually going through. If you do not sit there and think for a second about my lineage and my heritage, when I've actually stood in front of a concentration camp, seeing family names up on the board. So for a second, if you think that I don't and have not seen it, you're completely and utterly wrong. What I'm standing up here tonight, and we are only here in regards to the agenda that is actually put up in front of us. Regardless on where we come from in the world, we reside here in Australia. We pay heritage and lineage to what our pre-ancestors before us, and we always will respect that. However, also too, there's many Russians that live in Australia that are displaced by war as well. And for them, I feel sorry for them as well. I just wish they were here tonight to be able to come up and actually speak as well and what they've actually gone through in their area at the time. Tonight basically forms down to leadership. As Councillor McRae has actually stated, every single councillor has made contact with him prior before the agenda tonight and sat down and have spoken with him, except for one person. The person who has put up the agenda tonight. I have to ask myself, why as a leader that's meant to unite a council together has not taken the time, effort and energy to go ahead and speak to his fellow councillor prior before calling this agenda tonight? What is the outcome? Why? Why would someone call an agenda without taking the time to go and speak to his newly fellowed elected councillor to sit down and hear from him for his own words out of his own mouth, instead of reading, listening through media propaganda to actually hear to what he's got to say? Where you've got fellow councillors who also stated they too, if they had been given an opportunity, would have gone over and actually seen how a different election process took place. However, they also said too that they probably would not have gone on TV and gone ahead and thanked the person who won, which in turn coincides with, if you're playing a sporting match, and even in the Olympics, even the Olympians who go ahead and face each other take the time out to congratulate the winner and to go ahead and shake hands with each other, no matter where in the world or what conflict they are facing. That is how true sportsmanship takes place. You don't have to agree and align to the country that you're playing against. However, you do have common decency to go ahead and say thank you for a good game. Even here, as councillors, when you're elected, even when you stood here through the election process, for those who turned up, you congratulated the winners, and you also too congratulated the people who didn't get in, because them in turn put their hand up for this community. We need to realign back to what this community is all about and actually have a leader who actually believes in everyone around the table, who takes the time out to lead his fellow councillors on the journey, instead of wanting to create an in-house conflict that unnecessarily should not be taking place. We need to realign to what the councillors you guys were elected for when you were sworn into office, into this position, what your alignment is. International conflict is not part of your operation. For starters, we are Australian. I don't know how many people have actually listened to the song over and over again, but we are one and we are many, and from all around the world we come. We reside here as one. We're all together as one. But what I see is an inability right now for true leadership, and in turn, I actually put the agenda back upon our leader itself and flip it on its ass and turn around and say, Mr. Mayor, I do not believe the vote of no confidence should be against Mr. Councillor McRae, but instead the vote of no confidence should be about our leader, the Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement. Do you have any more public statements at all? Okay, I will close public statement time at 6:14 and we'll take a 10-minute recess. Thank you. Okay, I'll restart our meeting at 6:22 p.m. Item number 5. Are there any questions from elected members?
Are we open again, are we?
Yes, it's already open, yes.
Yeah, I've got a few questions. I want to get some clarification, and I'll take this one on notice because it'll clearly be too technical, on the validity of the motion of no confidence. Considering that you were in another country when the motion was signed, so I want to know who wrote the motion up, and was your digital signature used? And I'll quote the sections of the Local Government Act that will be relevant in this. So, in performing the function of calling a special meeting, you've used your executive powers granted by section 3.191B. Now, that section is quite clear. Well, you've actually no, I have stated that incorrectly. Hang on, I will adjust that. You have used section 5.4AI to call the meeting. Now, the executive functions or the powers put on council and the mayor come from section 3.19. And in that section, 3.191B, it states that those powers can only be used in the part of the state that has been given approval by the governor to perform the function. So, obviously, the function of council is to govern the affairs of the town of Port Hedland, this council. So I want to clarify whether this is actually legal. Now I'll take it on notice, and I would like the administration to get a detailed answer. I've given you the sections of the Act that relate to this, and I'm happy to take it on notice, or if the administration knows the answer now, I'm happy to take that answer now. Thanks.
So we'll take that on notice. Thank you, Mr. Blanco. Is there any other questions? Okay, we'll move on. Item number 6, announcement by presiding member. Without discussion, there is none. Item number 7, I invite all elected members to declare by a show of hands that they have given due consideration to the matters contained within the agenda. I have a show of hands, please. Carried. Thank you, councillors. Item number 8, 8.1, executive services. 8.1.1. We have a motion before us, a notice of submitted by myself as the Mayor, that requires a simple majority vote from Council. That Council endorse a vote of no confidence against Adrian McRae. As the mover of this motion, we'll have a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Turner. Is anyone against the motion?
Clearly, I am against it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Okay, as the mover, I will actually speak for the motion. Councillor McRae's statements and actions do not reflect the vision, values and standard of behaviour expected of a Town of Hedland councillor. A council should act with honesty, integrity, avoid damaging the reputation of local government. Councillor McRae has failed on all fronts. Councillor McRae's views are out of touch with overwhelming international and Australian opinion that Putin is authorised dictatorship, not a democracy. Under his rule, Russia has brutally invaded sovereign democracy neighbour, Ukraine, the largest attack on Europe's country since World War II. Councillor McRae's views are completely out of step in our community and the Australian public. We also note the Australian federal government and all state governments have impetuously supported Ukraine against its illegal, unwarranted, imported full invasion of Ukraine. Further, more locals, councils have shown their support for Ukraine by raising their flags, providing venues free of charge, and cancelling the sister relationships like the City of Melbourne has done. Councillor McRae has shown appalling lack of judgment by offering his support for the both media in Russia and Australia for Putin's recent sham election. He's also made statements which has made a mockery of Australia's democratic process by saying the president's election leaves Australia's system in its wake. Vladimir Putin's Russia is no democracy. Putin has the power, has been the president and the prime minister for over 24 years, has driven constitutional changes and enabled him to remain president till 2030. Opposition figures have been murdered, jailed, forced abroad, barred from running. Independent civic social media has been squashed over voter fraud, manipulation, intimidation are routine. Under the Putin regime, the Russian Federation launched illegal, unprovoked scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. An action which was condemned by 143 countries of the United Nations General Assembly on October 12, 2022. Now in its third year, the invasion has caused untold devastation, death and destruction. Thank you. Councillor Turner.
Through the chair, thank you. Firstly, I would say I always get criticised for not speaking into the mic. But I think what's expressed here tonight has been and is shared by all is that war is abhorrent. Tonight, I would like to welcome the speakers of the Ukrainian community. I would like to acknowledge your strength, courage and resilience. I thank you for sharing your personal statements that are steeped in trauma, tragic loss and overwhelming grief. I would like to extend the same acknowledgement to the people of the Ukrainian community across Australia and the valiant people of Ukraine who have the right to self-determination. I also welcome all speakers that are here tonight because it shows true democracy is a contested space. I would like to state categorically that I do not support or condone the statements made by Councillor McRae in his private capacity as a citizen, but also in his capacity as a councillor for the past 3 weeks post his appointment as an elected official. Tonight, it is not my job or the job of this council to contest the validity of the Russian election or the comparative merits over Australian democracy. Now, I have had the opportunity to speak with Councillor McRae, and I will say, because it has been mentioned tonight, that I was fascinated in our conversation. I share his fascination with geopolitics. And like Councillor McRae, I have worked overseas doing humanitarian work in Nauru and the Solomon Islands, and whilst not in official capacity, I've certainly observed national elections in the Pacific in particular. So when we were discussing, I did make the statement that, yeah, that would be a fascinating trip, visit, but I also said to Councillor McRae that I would not have made a public statement, particularly because it is important to manage the public perception. And by doing so, I think what has been evident since that time and over the last 3 weeks is that those statements made and perpetuated by Councillor McRae has brought the organisation, the council and the organisation into disrepute. What Councillor McRae did and believes as a private citizen is his own business. However, he is now an elected official in local government in the town of Port Hedland Shire. What he does and what he publicly says as an elected official does matter. It is my belief his views are not the views shared or represented by council. They're certainly not my views. Now, it's been said to me by those familiar with the proceedings of local government that a motion of no confidence has no value. It will make no difference. I disagree. In this instance, I believe the actions of Councillor McRae in regard to his continued engagement with local and national media is incompatible with the role and function of an elected councillor. Since his return, Councillor McRae has been in the headlines continuously and has made several media appearances, including Current Affair, Radio 6PR, headline features in the North West Telegraph, and a feature on the Aussie Cossack YouTube. At no time since he returned to Australia was there a requirement for him to go onto television, radio or social media. In that meeting that I had with Councillor McRae, following a briefing, I asked Councillor McRae to stop doing media in all its forms because of the damage I fear it does to the reputation of our town. Adrian is his own person and time will tell. The breaches against the Town of Port Hedland Code of Conduct as a councillor are numerous. I will let others, I'll leave others to elaborate on the specifics, but the threshold of trust and goodwill between the councillor and the community, I believe, has now been broken. And I would say the relationship between the council and the Ukrainian community has been shattered. In the initial statements about Russian elections and the subsequent expansive discussions during the interview as a councillor regarding aspects of the Ukraine conflict on the Aussie Cossack reflect what I consider to be a gross insensitivity and disregard for the welfare of the Ukrainian community, both in Hedland and the wider Australian community. I can totally understand the devastation and the loss of confidence by the Ukrainian community that they must have in the representation that sits on the Port Hedland Council. I can also say that I have multiple complaints from the public in Port Hedland about the statements and the continued coverage that has been generated by this situation. Now I want to bring you to this specific point. The goading of state and national government leaders does nothing to promote the value and the importance of Port Hedland. Comments about Penny Wong, the Foreign Minister, I wouldn't believe anything that comes out of her mouth, and describing Roger Cook as a pathological liar is unacceptable. How are we as a council supposed to build confidence and track the investment needed from government when these sorts of comments are being made public? This does immeasurable damage to the reputation of our community and our ability to work with government and industry partners as a council. I also believe it actually perpetuates a narrative of mistrust in the institutions of government. I've listened to much of the discussion on social media, and my concerns that these comments made by a councillor provide a legitimacy for others to promote and perpetuate a narrative of mistrust in both our politicians, good governance, and the underpinning frameworks of our democracy in Australia. At no time have I read or watched Councillor McRae speak to the priorities of Port Hedland in this last 3 weeks through the national coverage. No discussion about housing, healthcare, policing, childcare, the investment that we need for the ageing and failing social infrastructure that we have in Port Hedland. Port Hedland has been the economic engine room of Australia and should be attracting investment from government that is nation building. When you goad the politicians in that way, you're not standing up for Port Hedland as a councillor. This is not the representation the residents of Port Hedland want or need. We have spoken so my concern and the reason why I'm supporting the motion of no confidence is because I think the actions and comments, the perpetuated actions and comments by Councillor McRae continue and have done significant and lasting damage to the reputation of Port Hedland. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else against? Councillor Blanco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, you know, while I was mayor, I looked at a lot of big issues in Hedland, and we had the gallery full many times. They were out in the foyer there, and we actually filled the other room up when we were talking about alcohol reduction strategies, and pretty stressful time that was. Now, I'm feeling a little bit stressed on this item, right, which is unusual. So, I can see that council may be, the same, and obviously Adrian's second meeting. And, to come to his second meeting with a motion of no confidence, it tells you how toxic local government is in WA. Now, I just want to, before I go into what I wanted to say, I just want to comment at a high level on some of the stuff that was said, in public statement time. And, there was comments about, we need to kick Adrian off council, he needs to go. Well, isn't that what these communist countries do to their leaders? If they don't, or to their opponents, if they don't like what they're saying, they go missing. They get rid of them, right? So, if you don't like what's happening in countries like, or what is stated in countries like Russia and China about, people that want to challenge the leader and then they go missing, well, or, they're pushed aside, clearly we're in Australia and that doesn't happen in Australia, and we shouldn't be talking about doing things like that. By the way, I'm real disappointed that the cops are here. The police should not be here. Okay, because we're all civilised people in Australia, and we can have a conversation without, getting physical. And I don't understand why we have the police here. I don't understand why we have security here, and they shouldn't be here, because we can do this on our own without, having those guys. They've got more important things to do in Hedland than babysit the council and a heap of people that are having a discussion about a agenda item that shouldn't be presented to us.
Quiet, please.
The other thing that is very important is this highlights the need for free speech in Australia. All right, that's one of the most important things. I know America has got it, but we seem to think we have it, but we don't in Australia. So, when we have a conversation like this, it's very important, that we have a civil conversation, obviously, but, it highlights the need for the government to actually put some legislation in place that gives the people of Australia the ability to speak freely. Now, you know, I'm actually really disappointed in the Mayor's argument. There's absolutely no substance to it. It didn't, you know, lead me to believe that I should change my mind. And I hope that we get some detail in the right of reply, because he has got a right of reply at the end of this. So I would expect that there is some significant detail in the right of reply to try and change my mind as to why I should be supporting a motion like this. And, you know, in my experience with what the Mayor has said previously, I doubt that will come, but anyway, and I really don't understand how the Mayor can put a motion like this forward, a motion of no confidence in anyone, let alone a newly elected member who, in my opinion, has done nothing wrong. This agenda item talks about the rationale of the item of no confidence being brought forward, because we need to separate Macrae's view or action with ours as a council. Now, it was very clear to me that Macrae was acting in his own personal capacity as a private citizen, because he was not sworn in at that time. When asked by the media of the town, the town has stated that they do not comment on personal activities of members. So the town thinks the same, the executive think the same. And considering he was not a member of council, well, let's look at the technical aspect of it, because it's been stated that he was actually a member of the council. Well, clearly he was not. The Local Government Act states in section 2.291 that you must take the oath of office before you are allowed to act as a councillor. Obviously, the media was reporting their own narrative that twists the truth to suggest to everyone that he was actually a serving councillor, and that is misleading the public. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Macrae was elected to council after he came back from his trip, and the way the system works is that at the next election, if you're not happy with the way that he has acted on council, then you have the ability to not vote for him again. That's how it works. But obviously, that leads into, why did we put a motion of no confidence in the Mayor in February this year? And, I said that's because of many issues. And I expect that there's going to be some talk about that tonight, from councillors. So in light of that, I have continually asked many questions around the Mayor's business dealings, in Vietnam, and his engagement as Mayor and a private business person with that communist country. The Vietnamese media quotes Mayor Peter Carter many times, and photos published show the Mayor presenting official town of Port Hedland documents. The statements of some companies say that we're discussing sensitive information, and the Mayor is an immigration expert. But even though I ask many questions about that, I don't get any answers. The response continues to be, well, it's coming. The answers are coming. Well, the answers have been coming for 6 months. What's really disappointing as well is the administration has also stated that he's allowed to engage with foreign communist countries. Now, let's not forget about the incident where the Mayor was excommunicated from the school board. The images of the online school board meeting show students watching intimate horizontal folk dancing activity, while others were online laughing at the screen. Now, the mayor has been asked multiple times to resign over that, and he stated he was acting in his private capacity, not as the mayor, so he didn't have to resign. So how does this conduct not demand a resignation, and attending an election as an observer does? So considering the conduct displayed by the mayor over his term, which, you know, there's plenty of media on that, which is clearly disgraceful, a motion from the mayor of no confidence ruling in Macrae is clearly laughable, in my opinion. So the mayor has also stated many times that the things that he does outside of council meetings is his personal business. So again, why is it okay for the mayor but not okay for Macrae? Now, this item relates to interactions and associations of a political nature in Russia. Obviously, that's what it's about, while being an unelected member of the Australian community. The media attention came as soon as Macrae was sworn in. And that was pretty convenient. Absolutely no interest from the media in Macrae before he was a council member, when he was actually in Russia. So, just for your info, Australia is party to 7 core international human rights treaties. The right to freedom of assembly and association, and that's contained in the International Convent of Civil and Political Rights. And Article 3 of that states parties to the present convent undertake to ensure equal rights of men and women to enjoy all civil and political rights set forth in the present convent. And Article 19 states everyone shall have the right to hold opinions without interference. Number 2 of Article 19, everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to seek, receive and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of frontiers. And Article 22 1 says everyone shall have the right to freedom of association with others, including the right to form and join trade unions. Number 2 of Article 22 says no restrictions may be placed on the exercise of those rights other than those which are prescribed by law. So the High Court of Australia has ruled that we have the right of political communication and association. This includes the right to practice religion, so on and so on, but it also says these rights are sometimes also called civil and political rights because they describe what we need to be able to do to participate in society as a free and active citizen. So some of you may disagree with people going to Russia as a private citizen and practicing and participating as a scrutineer, and that's your opinion, and you have the right to your opinion. But which laws have been broken here, and why are we going down this road of trial by media again? This is a dangerous direction to adopt. Now, the media, in my opinion, and I've had a lot to do with them, is a toxic joke. It's about time people started to understand the media twists a narrative for their own purpose. This one is about Russia not having a democratic, fair election process. Now, I remind everyone to not be hypocritical about political interference and look at your own backyard before condemning others. in my experience with the electoral system in WA, I can say I've submitted multiple complaints, and I'll give you some examples of them. I submitted a complaint to the Electoral Commission that saw hundreds of Aboriginal voters' ballots redirected to a PO box in Port Hedland because there's a clause in the legislation that allows the ballots to be posted before an election date. Those votes were then processed by a member of a political party and submitted without the knowledge of the voters. The police, there was an investigation here, the police stated charges would not be laid because the 20-odd Aboriginal people that were interviewed and verified the complaint were classed as unreasonable witnesses. Now, I know most of those guys, and I disagree that they were unreliable. The Electoral Commission did nothing about it, and even after they stated in an official letter that there appears to be election interference, the Electoral Commission said nothing and did nothing. But when I checked the electoral roll previously, because there was hundreds of bogus names on there that was used, when I checked it at a next election that I attended, all the names were gone. The roll was cleansed. So if there was no electoral interference, why the need to cleanse the roll? Now, I've requested 6 months ago, on a number of occasions, and a number of occasions since, the report into the suspension of the Port Hedland Council and subsequently the dissolving of it. And that official document has not been provided because there is no document. Now, there's a legislative requirement that an elected body that is suspended or removed, that the report outlines the reasons behind it and the legislation that approved the removal. Now, I've stated that I want an official apology from the state Labor government for the illegal suspending of Port Hedland Council without just cause, and I want the minister of the time, Templeman, to resign over his use of those powers for political purposes. And no one seems to care too much about that, because most people have swallowed the media narrative of dysfunction and infighting, which was rubbish. Again, another example of election interference by the government. No answers provided, no accountability, and the WA government remains quiet, hoping that this will all go away. So, is that election interference or just good election practice? Now, I've got two other examples here. I've got plenty more, but I'll give you these two. I ran in the 21 state election for the Libs, and I had to employ a lawyer.
Sorry, Councillor Blacko.
Yes.
9.7 standing orders. What's the relevance to this, please?
Mr. Mayor, the relevance is that we are talking about somebody going to Russia to observe an election. And clearly, you know, the media has put out there that the Russian election is obviously tainted in some way. So like I said previously, Mr. Mayor, I'm talking about we need to be looking in our own backyard before we criticise other countries about what their election process is. Now, that is pretty relevant to me, Mr. Mayor. So, in the state election, I had to employ a lawyer, the 21 state election. I had to employ a lawyer because the City of Karratha was removing my advertising signage that I was putting up. I put it up and the ranger came straight behind me and took it down. I actually have video of them doing it. Now, they said I was illegally putting my signage up. I said to them that that was election interference. And I was fined. I had to pay thousands of dollars in fines to the city because I put my signage up. Now, I FOI'd all of the documents after the election, and I received them. And in the documents, the administration was talking to each other saying, oh, what do we do here? We don't know whether it's legal or not. So we'll ask the State Solicitor's Office and also the Electoral Commission lawyers. And the Electoral Commission lawyers said, don't touch the signs or you'll impinge on the Australian Constitution's implied right to political communication. That's what it said. But they still took the signs down. Even though they knew they were doing the wrong thing, they still did it. So, is that election interference or just good election practice? 2 weeks out of the 21 state election, the local member, Kevin Michelle, went on social media and advertised giving money away to all sporting groups in $5,000 and $10,000 lots. Okay, the legislation is clear. You're not allowed to do that because it's called vote buying. When I put the complaint into the Electoral Commission about it, they said, "Oh no, that's okay. It's something that he did in his election campaign that, a promise, an election promise." So my reading of the legislation says not allowed to happen. But let's look at it in a practical view. Effectively, what the Electoral Commission is saying now is you can buy your votes. You can pay people to vote for you. Okay? Now, social media will be going off. They're my examples. I've got plenty more, but social media will be going off with all sorts of opinion. And it's great to see so many people here. I actually didn't think we were going to get so many. But, it's great to see people come and just state your opinion. And that's what we need, to make sure our democracy stays healthy. But we should be free to observe any election process in any country we want and comment on our experience, as suggested in the Australian signed United Nations Charter Agreement. Now, you may agree, you may not agree. That's your right. But when that right or freedom becomes restricted because of your objection, then you contributed to supporting the very restrictions and censorship people are suggesting happens in China and Russia. Ultimately, you either agree with a free democracy, a free society, or you agree with a socialist government. Now, council members, I suggest that the council rejects the motion for all the reasons that I have stated, and for all the reasons I've not stated, because I could be here all night tearing this motion up. Now, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my statement, but I would also like to foreshadow a motion. Mr. Mayor.
What is the foreshadow, Councillor?
Would you like it now, or do you want to wait till we see if this motion goes through or not? Let's just see what happens.
Okay.
Point of order through the chair.
Yes. Okay.
Can I please ask that we ask for that motion now, has been the current, standard that we have set in this council, that if we ask for a foreshadow, we know what the foreshadow is, so we can think about what we're going to do before we debate, please.
Okay. Councillor Blanco.
I put forward. Is you happy with that? You want?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. Do you want to write it up now, or the number one on the? So there's two parts of it. So on the current motion, it will be that council. Hang on, no, I'll rewrite it how I've done it here. Number one, that Councillor Adrian McKay's name be removed from the motion, and Mayor Peter Carter's name be inserted, number one.
Quiet, please.
Number two, that the council affirms the motion passed on February 7th, 2024, that council endorse and reaffirms a vote of no confidence in the Mayor Peter Carter. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Macrae. Okay, we'll go back to the original motion. Anyone else for the motion? Sorry, Councillor Rebelli.
Just confirming that we're speaking to the original.
Original motion, correct, yes.
Right. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, fellow councillors, CEO and administration, members of the press, and my fellow Headland community members present in the gallery and those listening in online. Let me start out by acknowledging the members of public who came here tonight to have their say, and especially the ladies who laid bare their personal life experience and in doing so have revisited the trauma. To the ladies of Ukrainian origin, I say to you, you have shown tremendous courage and resilience. I assure you that you are seen and your voice is heard. We are very lucky to live in Australia, a great multicultural country, where we enjoy the right of freedom of opinion and expression. However, along with this right, I have to acknowledge that all elected council members also have a responsibility, one where we must comply with the Town of Port Hedland Code of Conduct. And this extends to candidates as well. I reference sections 4.1a and e. A council member should act with reasonable care and diligence, avoid damage to the reputation of local government, and to section 18.1b, a council member should not make improper use of their office to cause detriment to the local government. I draw attention to Councillor Macrae wanting to challenge our state premier to a debate on a foreign election in an interview on Triple M Headland. I also draw attention to his interview on Current Affair, where he has insulted our foreign minister in reference again to that said foreign election. I wonder, as an elected member of local government, our roles relate to roles, rates, rubbish, recreation, and extend to housing, childcare, community safety, and the likes. How do such statements and actions relate to acting with reasonable care and diligence? Further, how does it help with fulfilling the roles and responsibilities that he is elected into council for? Port Hedland Council sits within the framework of government, and the prosperity of the town and the well-being of its community benefits by building meaningful relationships with industry and with government at all levels. How does such behavior help build bridges? In fact, it has done the opposite. It has brought the local government to disrepute and compromised our effectiveness as a council. In another recent interview, he himself indicates that as an elected official, his views carry more legitimacy. He then goes on once again to discredit the Australian government, call premiers compulsive liars, and show no regard for rules or the consequences to the town it is meant to represent. Councillor Macrae further makes statements like, "I am embarrassed of my country, and my fellow councillors have been calling me with messages of support." Such statements are inappropriate, divisive, and damaging to the reputation of the council. Here, there are two aspects. One, that you are using your elected position to cause detriment to local government, and the other, that you risk engendering public distrust and create paranoia. I further reference sections 8.1a. A council member must ensure that their use of social media and other forms of communication complies with the code. And 9b, a council member must deal with media in a positive and appropriate manner and in accordance with any relevant policy of the local government. And a lot has been spoken of all of these media interviews tonight and shared. I will reference Councillor McRae's media interviews, where there are several views expressed therein by him, which are his own. However, as an elected local member, has he stopped to think of the consequences his media interactions might have on Port Hedland, its future and its community? We are here as elected members with our words and actions, we are here to unite and not divide. I will also cite section 5.2. A council member should maintain and contribute to a harmonious, safe and productive work environment. Due to Councillor McRae's associations, I am apprehensive that our workplace in council is no longer safe, and that those with views that do not align with his ideology risk being distressed. And I'm saying that a Four Corners investigative journalism report was shared tonight. And I'm just referencing one statement from there, where his associate says to a Russian media outlet that and he's referencing to Australia here, we have a unique opportunity to support Russia from within an enemy state. That's right here. In closing, in an increasingly polarized world, we as local council leaders need to be the voice of reason that places the needs of the people of Hedland as their first and foremost. We also have to be mindful that we do not use our elected position to give legitimacy to personal activism. I believe that when I step outside my home, I represent not just myself, but also my community, my ethnicity, and my country. Whether you speak in a personal capacity or not, you never stop being a councillor. And I have shared these sentiments, Councillor McRae, with you personally. Although the vote of no confidence is largely a symbolic one, it is of importance as Councillor McRae's statements and behaviour do not represent mine, and certainly do not represent what is expected of us as council. My fellow council members, tonight I leave you with 3 questions. Has Mr. McRae, through his actions, associations and engagements with the media, brought the town of Port Hedland into disrepute? Has he compromised the effectiveness of the council? And is there a good possibility that he might continue to do so? Has he led people to believe that the town of Port Hedland endorses his personal views? For me, the answer to all these 3 questions is a yes, and that is why I'm supporting this vote of no confidence.
Thank you. Anyone was against? Anyone else? Oh, sorry. Yes.
Please. Just referring now, I think that with what has been said from both parties, There is a lot of people within this audience tonight, and I do have respect. There's been a lot of wars, and a lot of us in this actually community have suffered, not just with Russia, not with Ukraine, with Germany, many, many, many wars. And a lot of us, as even my grandparents suffered, where my mother used to be locked up in a cupboard during the war. And she had no one to look after her. Eventually her grandmother had to bring her up. So I think, yes, it is very sad that's what's going on with wars. You're never going to stop it. No matter what we do, we're never going to stop it. But I do say that the town of Port Hedland has been in disrepute for a while now, since I've been on council in 6 months, and I was the person that put up the vote of no confidence. And the reason the vote of no confidence I put up back in November was that the mayor would actually follow the rules of the land, which still is not done today. He has actually put the town into disrepute. The things that he has done, obviously people are allowing him to have those behaviours, but we've got our councillor next to us who's new, probably has made a few comments that are wrong, but in all, the mayor is still allowed to do what he does. And yet we are now actually putting a vote of no confidence in to get rid of a new councillor who's only actually had on his now second meeting this week. So, unfortunately, in a lot of the issues, I think that over the last 2 years, I think that the council has had a hard time. There has been a lot of few councillors that have tried their hardest to do things right, but it still doesn't with a division in the council. And I think that if we go through this now, it's only going to cause a further division in the council, and it could lead to things that we really don't want to happen. There is quite a few of us good people on this council that do really want to go forward for our community and to grow our community. And if we do not do the right things now, then our council is not going to be able to go forward in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else for? Yes, Councillor Bennett, yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, I want to say thank you to everyone here tonight who took the courage to speak and share your stories with us. Whilst I would have much preferred to have this matter dealt with behind closed doors, we are here. But after thorough consideration, research and reflection, I've arrived at a firm opinion as we address the motion of no confidence in our fellow councillor. It's not a decision taken lightly, but one that I believe is necessary for the integrity and well-being of our council and the community we serve. Sorry, I'm really nervous. In the course of our duties as councillors, we are entrusted with the immense responsibility in representing the interests and values of our constituents. We are elected to uphold the highest standards of ethics, accountability, and dedication to public service. Councillor McRae's public statements regarding the Russian presidential election, I feel express strong support for a particular candidate, citing personal admiration for their policies and leadership style. These statements have sparked controversy within the community, with some residents expressing concern, fear and displacement. Whilst I recognise the statements made by Councillor McRae, and I quote, "In my lifetime the world has never seen such transparent and comprehensive victory of his own personal opinions and thoughts. Unfortunately, I do feel that he has breached our code of conduct, our ethical conduct, and the actions is contrary to Council's values. I also feel his comments has created a public perception of endorsement of a controversial foreign leader amongst the community, nationally and internationally, which I feel has tarnished the community's reputation and makes it harder for us to attract investment or support for local projects by external stakeholders. And I do feel that these negative perceptions could impact collaboration and partnerships with external entities. with his comments and public media, I also feel that he's further created more damage to council reputation, even though it was already tarnished, by creating the impression that council is taking sides in foreign elections, undermining its credibility, neutrality and impartiality as a governing body. His comments, I feel, also further creates a loss of trust and confidence from the community in the council's ability to represent the interests of our town. As elected representatives, we are held to the highest standards, and our actions must reflect and trust and confidence bestowed upon us by the community. Councillor McRae's conduct with the media undermines this, in my views, and adds risk to the effectiveness of our council. So I would urge our council, or my fellow councillors, to consider the gravity of the situation and vote for the motion of no confidence, because the councillor's comment has negatively impacted council's reputation, has created community cohesion, ethical standards, governance effectiveness, public trust and external relationships. By voting for the motion of no confidence in our councillor, you're voting for the commitment to uphold the principles of the transparency, accountability, integrity and reaffirming our dedication to serving the best interests of our hometown, which is the town of Port Hedland, which is why we're all here. And just to finish off, whilst the motion confidence has sparked significant interest, clearly with the presence of the media here, I would actually like more coverage on and light shine on the numerous and other challenges and issues within our town, especially the pressing issues that directly impact the daily lives of our residents, such as housing shortage, rising crimes and access to childcare. And to also for you guys to shine light on the essential services that our town actually has been trying to voice. It'll be great for the media to not only take on light on this particular issue with the motion of no confidence, but to highlight these issues and amplify our voices of those that are affected by this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Okay. Anyone's against? Yes, Councillor Christian.
Righto. As I always do, I like to stick to standing orders. So if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I would like to request, as per section 9.9 of our standing orders, that I get a extended duration of my speech that's allowed as per thing, please. Thank you. Again, before I commence on my speech and my debate, I just wanted to talk through a few points in relation that were brought up during the conversations in the question time and statement time. I heard in people's statements that they are of the understanding and the belief that the council, we are here today, any decision we make tonight, has any power or authority to remove any member of our council off the board. I'm here to say unanimously we don't. I wish we had the slide up here today so I can show you, and all I can do is suggest that you go back and read the original motion, underneath detailed, and it's under paragraph 4. It says here very clearly that it is important to note that there is no power under the Local Government Act 1995 for council to remove a councillor from office. So again, I want to be completely transparent here so everybody understands that regardless of a decision made here tonight, it cannot have a legal standing on a councillor's ability to sit here on the table and represent council. So again, full disclosure before I start off and commence. I also wanted to talk through a few points that my fellow councillors have brought up during the debate. One was, a couple of people have mentioned on it in relation to we want to hold ourselves to comply to the Code of Conduct. Now, I'll make it very clear that the Code of Conduct is not for us to be the judge, jury and executioner. If we honestly believe that there's been some breaches of the Code of Conduct, we owe it to ourselves, like any other process to do, is to do the right thing and put in breaches. So right now, anyone that feels that it's going against the Code of Conduct, you are entitled to have that feeling But until that is gone through the correct channels, I believe we should think twice about that being a debate point. Second to that, the Councillor Turner, I just wish to talk about a statement you made where you said that you have not heard Councillor McRae during the presences of his media campaigns, for lack of a better word, has not spoken through the priorities of the town of Port Hedland. To me, that just goes more to the point to argue the point that I wish to extend, the fact that he was there on his own fruition as an individual member of the community, not as a councillor. Otherwise, he would have been lobbying, I assume, the points of council. So, I will speak through my debate, and again, apologies for me reading through the screen. This sort of debate, I think, warrants thoughtful consideration and words, and for those who know me, I'm not very good at that on the fly, so I've taken the time to write it down, so please forgive me for if my eyes are down at my screen to read what I wanted to read tonight. Tonight, I sit before you weary, exhausted and broken from a council journey that has tested my resilience like never before. The road we've travelled has been riddled with obstacles akin to the punishments given to Sisyphus. Yet, as we gather here tonight, the tension at the council table is yet again palpable. A simmering cauldron of strain, stress, frustration and uncertainty. The relentless cycle of blame and finger-pointing threatens to tear apart the very fabric of our team and, worse, our community. But let me be unequivocal. In the face of adversity, we must stand united. We must draw strength from our shared common purpose and our unwavering dedication to the well-being of our town. We must recognise that true leadership is not about deflecting blame. It is about shouldering responsibility and inspiring those around us to rise above the fray. Therefore, I humbly urge you, Mayor Carter, to reflect on your actions and consider the greater good of council, the administration, and of course our community next time you decide to put into action a motion of this significance without the consultation and consideration of our whole team. You have knowingly exposed our teams to increased stresses and workloads while creating bigger rifts within our already fragmented team for something that, in my opinion, should have been avoided through the correct use of governance and procedures. You received advice and you were reminded of the ramifications this ill action would have and what would it attract to our team before the publication of this motion. Advice you selfishly elected to ignore. I want to take this opportunity to sincerely apologise, first to our community. And to follow up, further apologise to our CEO, members of the executive leadership team, and to the entire Town of Port Hedland administration for this and many other regrettable situations you have had to endure due to the actions and behaviours of your council and board. As a councillor, I am thankful to have an administration who act in such a professional and kind manner towards us when having to deal with embarrassing situations such as this on a regular occurrence. I also want to take this opportunity to commend the people of our community who were brave enough tonight to share your stories, your questions and your comments on both sides of the debate. Now, before I go through the reasons why I'm against the motion, I wanted to explain my position on a few matters. I am in no way educated enough on international affairs relating to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, so I will not make comment to that in my debate here tonight. I do, however, wish to extend my sincere condolences and well wishes to each and every person and family who have been affected by this and devastated due to this conflict. I personally do not share all the thoughts and comments that have been expressed on a number of media outlets by Councillor McRae in his personal capacity, nor in my opinion does it reflect the joint belief of our council. Nevertheless, I feel compelled to clarify the core reasons why my fellow councillors should firmly oppose this current motion and stand in solidarity with Councillor McRae against the vote of no confidence. The first and most important reason not to support this motion is the lack of procedural fairness that is currently being displayed and how procedural fairness is paramount to ensure compliance to all of our policies and procedures when addressing such a serious request from the Mayor. How can we be expected to gauge our confidence in a fellow councillor and his ability to fulfil his position if we haven't allowed due process to unfold? Why, while the Mayor has urged the community to follow a process for lodging complaints against Councillor McRae, sufficient time has not been granted for these complaints to, one, be submitted, nor for a fair investigation to be concluded before considering a vote of no confidence. A vote of no confidence should not be hastily called, especially one based on a singular issue. It requires a thorough consideration of all factors, including, but not limited to, the individual's contributions, abilities, knowledge, a consideration of if they've been trained in the areas of concern, but most importantly, have they been provided the opportunity to fix or change the alleged concerning behaviour. I challenge all councillors present tonight to assert whether you have sufficient understanding of the above mentioned areas in regards to Councillor McRae, as his elected member career has only spanned a mere 4 weeks. And during those 4 weeks, I challenge us also to ask the questions, how much time have you dedicated to get to know Councillor McRae on a personal but also professional level? Have you taken the time to engage with Councillor McRae to understand his strengths, passions and possible contributions he can make to the team? Or have judgments been made in allowing for biased opinions to take over? Did you proactively seek to address the original concern, or did it fall upon me to convene a meeting to allow a team to confront the issue once again? It's my firm belief that the basic principles and expectations of procedural fairness have not been applied to the current situation that has been forced upon us, so therefore I cannot see any reason to support such an ill-written motion. Second to that, the essence of leadership and integrity lies in honouring one's word, regardless of the challenges faced and people's personal beliefs. To me, this is an important statement in the situation we currently find ourselves, as we are talking about the alleged questionable behaviours of one of our fellow councillors. I believe the stance taken by some of my colleagues tonight is in itself bringing the integrity of our council into question. Allow me to illustrate this point using examples from within these very walls and quoting councillors here tonight. Out of respect for these councillors, I will not name them, but ask them to listen for their own words and take them under consideration before making your final decision tonight. A little context for people who don't know what I'm talking about. February 7th, 2024, a motion of no confidence was moved on the Mayor, Peter Carter, and passed. It's important to know that after 3 years of service as the Mayor, there were a number of questionable situations that covered a number of different areas in relation to the Mayor's duties. This resulted in a number of breaches being made and substantiated against him. Out of the above-mentioned situations, a number of controls were put into place, which consisted of, but not limiting to, one-on-one sessions, a lot of extra training above the refreshers required from the town of Port Hedland, which were provided, support provided through mentors, countless emails, countless meetings from the team to express concerns and requests for an action plan to address the growing concerns relating to his ability and behaviours. So even after all this had been taken into consideration, the following statements were still made. A councillor remarked on the motion's inconsequential outcomes by stating, "I think this motion is a complete waste of time." So I ask that member today, is that still the case? Another member of council, I wanted to quote, spoke around the way in which this motion was submitted, and I find very closely similarities to the two motions that we're talking about. They were quoted by saying, "I would like to say that the way this motion had come to the table is probably not the right way of going about things and should have been taken up internally first." Again, I concur. The last member expressed concerns about the lack of team discussions before the motion was submitted, emphasising the importance of exhausting all avenues for resolution before resorting to such extreme measures such as a vote of no confidence. They urged, and were quoted by saying, "Moving to a vote of no confidence is a bit like going the nuclear option first. There are probably 2 steps before I would push that button." The individual continued to say, they continued just by saying, "What I'm saying is we need to lay this bare on the table and have a thorough review and, if required, appropriate referrals to investigation or complaints prior to going to a vote of no confidence." I fail to see how this situation differs from the one mentioned regarding the Mayor. This leads me to question the intent behind the statements I have quoted, and also then bring more questions that how can someone's stance be changed in the span of 10 weeks when there is less done to address the concerns relating to this council's current behaviours? My last stance I wanted to take was that the insincere and hypocritical rationale behind this motion is palpable, to say the least. I quote the rationale provided is to demonstrate to the town of Port Hedland community that Councillor McRae's public comments in relation to the Russian election are his own personal views and not endorsed by the town of Port Hedland Council. Interestingly enough, the Mayor has already stated to express a public council stance, as evident in the public statement titled "Public Statement, Adrian McRae," published on the Town of Port Hedland website on Thursday the 28th of March 2024 at 10:38 a.m. In the statement, the Mayor himself made it explicitly clear that the town encourages any member of the public who has concerns in regards with Councillor McRae's conduct to lodge a complaint via the process set out by the state government. He further emphasises that all complaints lodged properly using this agreed process will then be addressed again against the Code of Conduct and regulations governing how elected members are required to act in the performance of their duties. Second to this, additionally, the CEO also stated in the same statement that Adrian McRae travelled to Russia on personal capacity, and that the Town of Port Hedland does not comment on personal activities of our elected members, and that also all elected members are subject to the town's Code of Conduct. Regrettably, it is also noteworthy that no prior meeting was convened to solicit input or gauge the positions of other councillors on this matter before the release of the public statement. It is perplexing to me that the Mayor has opted to misuse his authority by convening this meeting instead of following the established procedures. Procedures which he has been quoted instructing our community to follow in the above-mentioned public statement, which in my opinion would have stopped this very meeting from taking place and the damage that our councillors seem to think has occurred. I propose a theoretical question to the Mayor, Carter, which I'm happy for you to answer in your summing up debate if you wish. Why call this meeting when you've instructed community members to follow due process without affording time for this to unfold? Why not convene a closed meeting with all councillors to understand their perspectives and publish a unified council stance while allowing due process to take its course, instead of subjecting us all to this ordeal once again? Is this now the moment to summon our collective resolve and demand accountability from our leader? A leader whose actions have only served to widen the division amongst us. I speak not out of malice, please don't get me wrong, but out of deep-seated commitment to the principles of unity and collaboration. I can't say it strong enough or enough times, but I believe it's time for our leader to acknowledge his shortcomings and provide an action plan on how we will resolve the common issues within our team relating to communications. Or do this community and us, our council, a favour and step aside. Step aside and allow this team to pave the way for a new era of leadership, one guided by integrity, empathy, and a genuine commitment to the well-being of this team, and in turn to our community. In closing, let's not lose sight of tonight's pivotal messages. I've emphasised the importance of procedural fairness, the necessity of our integrity in ensuring we honour our word, and the need of unity of our team. I implore all councillors tonight, including yourself, Mr Mayor, to vote against this motion and let due process prevail. You can still achieve this motion's objectives by individually stating your stance of Councillor McRae's statements here tonight without resorting to a vote of no confidence. Thank you.
Is anyone else? Anyone else for? Anyone else against? Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, fellow councillors and everyone else that's come in tonight and spoken. Thank you very much. As I'll probably copy Deputy Mayor here a little bit, but I would first likely to state that I'm not educated enough on the topics of Russia, Ukraine, or any foreign politics or politicians to have any official opinion or stance on the subject. So I'll just discuss about what I do know and in the council and the things that we deal with. Today we are here to discuss whether we should have confidence in Councillor Adrian McRae to ensure the success and future of this town. Councillor McRae's recent comments and appearances concerning foreign politics have indeed stirred controversy and debate. While not everyone may agree with his views or on the platform he chooses, it is crucial to highlight that these are his personal opinions, which he is entitled to under the same democratic principles that govern us in our great town. We must remember Councillor McRae is one of 9 on this council, and his personal political views alone cannot affect the decisions here in the chamber. His opinions on other countries' politics were expressed about events that occurred before he started in his role, and he should be viewed as separate from his current position with us. So far, his work regarding council matters has shown a strong desire to contribute positively to our town, and there's been no issues or concern with his performance in the chamber that I've seen so far. If we decide against him just because of his personal opinions, it could deter other council members from expressing their views in the future out of fear of scrutiny for having opinions that differ from those of the state government or even our administrative team or other councillors. We should encourage everyone to share their ideas openly without fear of judgment. Diversity is an opinion. It is essential for a functioning council. Therefore, I believe we should not support this vote of no confidence, and we should continue to work together as a team, as a united front, and focus on our top priority of making Port Hedland a better place for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dexter. Okay. Anyone else against? Yes.
Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone who's come out tonight, particularly the Ukraine people that have that I've stirred up memories and sentiments that you'd rather not be stirred up while you're living in a faraway country. I really do empathise with what's going on, and as I've said many times in public places and in interviews, I don't support Russia, I don't support Ukraine. I understand why the war's happening. I hate why the war's happening, but I understand why it's happening. Quick response to Councillor Turner that I haven't mentioned any town issues on any of my media interviews. Well, I've mentioned town interviews on several, but like on a current affair, that was all cut out because the interview was cut from 11 minutes to 4. Clearly tonight there is no bearing on what happens apart from a very public naming and shaming. A kangaroo court, if you will, that probably should be called People in Glass Houses Should Never Throw Stones. 2 years ago, almost to the day, I stood at that very lectern, which has now been moved, and I quoted the words of United States Judge Napolitano, and I said, "It's dangerous to be right when your government is wrong." No one on earth has showcased that principle better than Australia's own Julian Assange, who is rotting away in a maximum security UK penitentiary for doing nothing but exposing the lies and crimes of governments around the world, and of course for telling the truth. All those criminals he exposed still walk our streets and occupy our halls of power, while the bloke who exposed them is slowly being murdered by our so-called allies in Big Brother governments in the US and the UK. But to put it more simply, Julian Assange is being tortured for doing the crime of journalism. Real journalists, like Julian Assange, are the people's safeguard, keeping checks and balances on government while also holding those in power to account. Sadly, the mainstream media, and in Australia in particular, have instead become the government's megaphone. Now, I'm turning back the clock a little bit here, but 2 years ago when I stood at the lectern in this room, I begged the councils on this side of the podium to support the overwhelming majority of Port Hedland residents against a despicable state government and their prostitute lapdogs in the mainstream media, who are together promoting the forced injection of an experimental gene editing technology, as it was described by Pfizer's CEO Albert Bourla, into the arms of every man, woman and child in this town, in this state and this country. Lo and behold, instead of representing his people who elected him to office, the Mayor chose to do the bidding of Premier McGowan and his Health Minister at the time, Roger Cook. Needless to say that since that time 2 years ago, Australia's medical and healthcare system has all but collapsed. Our national excess death rates have surpassed even what we saw during World War II. At the height of COVID, as the Australian mainstream media parroted death propaganda and maximum fear-mongering, Australia's death rate stayed steady, even going into decline in late 22 at the height of the pandemic. However, once the media-promoted injection campaign began, our national excess death rate shot up to as much as 20% above normal. And for the record, 10% above normal is a 1 in 200 year catastrophe or a plague. 3 years on, and Australia still hovers between 15 and 20% excess death rates above the previous 5-year average, which equates to an Airbus A380, the biggest passenger airliner in the world, full of people, one crashing every week for the last 3 years and killing all aboard. That's how many excess deaths we've had, and our media refuses to talk about it. You see, telling lies while simultaneously silencing, smearing and suppressing those who tell the truth has real-world consequences. Not just for truth-tellers like Julian Assange, but also for those folks, those families, those communities and those countries who so sadly fell for those monstrous lies being disseminated into the zeitgeist by these lying prostitutes in our mainstream media in Australia. Now, we all know why these media people have flown into Port Hedland today. I'm not sure if it's just me, or has everyone noticed that the media and the mayor have stooped to ad hominem, or in sporting parlance, they're now playing the man and not the ball. No one is under any false illusion as to why media are interested in my story. I don't remember seeing them here for an actual legitimate vote of no confidence earlier this year, where you, Mayor Carter, were once again shown how little support you have both in the community and neither here on the council. But today is different. Of course, the media's sugar daddies in government in both Perth and Canberra need them to smear, to humiliate, to embarrass and to belittle me, Councillor McRae, for daring to tell the truth on an issue that an Australian government continues to embarrass themselves internationally. A state and even federal government hit piece on a small town councillor because I dared to report the truth about what I was privileged to be invited to witness in Russia. In case anyone in the room didn't wake up over the last 4 years, we're in information war. And as Aeschylus, the father of Greek tragedy, once said, the first casualty of any war is the truth. And for those who didn't wake up over the last 4 years, the South Hedland chemist is still administering Pfizer jabs for anyone that wants their 8th booster. But the first casualty of war is indeed the truth, which brings us back to tonight's agenda. Mayor Carter, I struggle to believe that you brought this up on your own, and it feels that you're doing this on behalf of someone higher up, and I feel it's the pressure from the state government that Roger Cook openly said on his press conference the day after I swore an oath of office. But the vote of no confidence is not for expressing some repulsive political opinions, but merely for telling the truth and reporting back on what I and 1,300 other international foreign observers witnessed in the recent Russian presidential election. I work beside journalists, real journalists, international human rights lawyers, past and present members of Parliament and US Congress, and I even befriended a cosmonaut and the longest-serving commander of the International Space Station. And we all reported the exact same thing. We all saw an incredibly transparent and professionally run Russian presidential election process. Some people say that the truth hurts, but I prefer to say that the truth has no obligation to make anyone feel comfortable. While Penny Wong, Australia's Foreign Minister, said the Russian election process was a disgrace to democracy, and Premier Roger Cook said my commentary on the Russian election was bizarre, embarrassing and inaccurate, I personally lived and breathed and oversaw the Russian election process in person and in real time. So who's lying and who's telling the truth? Does the truth matter? When the truth in this situation might be a deciding factor on whether Australia decides to be a willing participant in organising the outbreak of World War III, I tend to think that yes, the truth most definitely does always matter, especially in this case. In the sentiment of Julian Assange in one of his last public appearances, he said, "If war can be started by lies, peace can be brought about with truth." A few weeks back on A Current Affair, Alison Langdon suggested that I and 1,300 very high-level international foreign observers, over 1 million Central Election Commission workers and over 300,000 Russian volunteer observers representing all the presidential candidates and all their respective political parties, somehow we all got played. These pathetic attempts to smear and discredit me would be funny if indeed the implications were not so serious. If anything, the town of Port Hedland should welcome into their private ranks a first-hand account on the side of truth in such an important international geopolitical issue as a Russian election. But no, for Mayor Carter, once again, like in 2022, the comfortable lie is much more preferable than the uncomfortable truth. If there's anything we learn from history, it's that we don't learn anything from history. George Orwell once wrote that in times of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Imagine telling the truth being a revolutionary act. Now imagine being a newly minted, not even 4 weeks elected councillor and being told through a ridiculous public character assassination, a kangaroo court if you will, a special council meeting, that your peers on council fear the truth that you have so much that they'd vote on a motion of no confidence just because their opinions, many of which are derived from a constantly lying government's narrative that has been widely disseminated through a lying media, were different to the truth you saw with your own eyes. The dystopian precedent that could be set by this council voting along with Mayor's vote of no confidence against me, merely for telling the truth, is simply mind-boggling to say the least. None of us here on council, none of us, either individually or collectively, share identical views on anything ideologically, political, spiritual, or even social. I've never come out and blindly supported Russia, nor have I come out and said that I blindly support Ukraine. All I support publicly and all I ever supported publicly is peace. I merely reported back on the facts of Russia's election process and congratulated the winner of an election which I personally counted the ballots. The mainstream media and the Premier were clearly triggered by my show of diplomacy, good manners and good sportsmanship by congratulating the winner, which I was the only Australian to bear witness to. Now, I was the only Australian to bear witness because I was the only one that had the balls to go over there. There were several members of Parliament invited to go and they wanted to go, but they didn't want to deal with the ramifications that I didn't believe would happen. And then I was a bit naive. I came back and I didn't expect to be voted into council. And as I said to you guys in the ABC the other night, you wouldn't have talked to me if I wasn't voted into council. It would be a nothing burger. Anyway, the mainstream media's aggressive smear campaign tactics on behalf of their overlords in Perth and Canberra should send shivers down the spine of any truth-seeking Australian. They so desperately cling on to their continued lies and propaganda that it's become blatantly obvious to anyone with 3 brain cells to rub together that their panic is a clear sign that people are waking up to their lies, their deception and their race into irrelevance. But I digress. Today we have a very important decision to make. The ramifications which run deeper and wider than any of us sitting here at this podium can yet understand. Either you side with the lying media and an equally distrusted mayor, or you side with truth and transparency. God help this chamber, this community and this country if we as councillors are so spineless that we prefer the former over the truth. The people of Port Hedland voted for me because I stand up for them against overreaching governments like we had in McGowan and now we have in Cook. And it seems the Mayor bends over for them at every opportunity. If the council genuinely believes that I'm not worthy of my position based purely on my willingness to speak truth to power, then I genuinely pity this town and where it ultimately heads. I want to thank you again all for coming and thank you for the time to speak.
Thank you. Anybody else for? Okay, thank you, Councillor. I'll now sum up. Look, this vote is about making it clear to our community and our council that Councillor McRae's comments are his own personal view and not the view of the Town of Port Hedland Council. We work to engage with government, both state and federal level, is important, as we are committed to working with all levels of government. I do not support comments made by Councillor McRae or his position on the Russian election. I believe it is critical to make it very clear to our community that a vote in our Councillor McRae's position was personal. Let me make that clear. This does not speak on behalf of the Council or the Town of Port Hedland. Some elected members may have their view on the way this vote may be initiated, but I want to emphasise that the outcome of this vote sends an important message to our community. I urge you all to think very clearly about your decision you're about to make. Thinking carefully about the message you want to send to the people who elected you and represented you here in this town. Thank you. Okay. We'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour of the motion? Sorry, Councillor Rebel.
I'm just seeking a clarification.
Yes.
So are we voting on the original
motion?
motion?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah. Okay. All those in favour of the original motion? All those against? Motion's lost. Thank you. Item number 9.
Mr. Mayor, we have a foreshadowed motion.
Oh, do yes. So put that up on the screen.
Point of order through the chair as well, mate, if I may.
Yes,
Before we move on to move, second and debate this foreshadowed motion, can I ask for a 5 to 10 minute recess so I can have a conversation with the governor's team to ask me questions?
Yes, certainly. We'll have a 10-minute recess. Thank you. Yes, okay. Welcome back, everybody. I'll reopen the meeting at 8:15 p.m. I'll hand it over to Councillor Blanco.
Mr Mayor, I withdraw my foreshadowed motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Blanco. Okay, we'll move on then. Item number 9, new business of urgent nature, late items, there is none. 10.1, the date of the next ordinary council meeting will be held on Wednesday, the 24th of April 2024 at 5:30 p.m. 10.2, closure. With no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 8:16 p.m. I'd like to thank councils, members of the public, CEO and the staff for attending this